What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Resleevables Urza's Legacy Edition. I'm your host, Cedric Phillips, as always joined by co-host Patrick Sullivan. If you were with us for our last episode, we got to talk about the unbelievably broken Urza Saga, but one could argue, Patrick, that we're going to talk about a set that is maybe even more broken than Urza Saga. One could argue.
Something that I appreciate about this set that is not the case in Saga, is there are a handful of cards that I would describe as 8 out of 10 in power and are reasonably fun. That experience is absent from Saga. It's a bunch of 14 out of 10s that are all miserable.
That's true.
I have a lot of fondness for Legacy for a couple of reasons. One, it was the set that got me back into Magic.
Yep, because you were taking a break before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these things sort of overlap, but a game store opened in my town, the only game in town, on Route 206 in Hillsborough, New Jersey, next to a catered affair. This was 98, 99.
What is a catered affair? Probably a catering company?
It was like a deli, but they also did catering.
Could you order food? Could you go
Yeah.
there? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Was it good food?
Oh, yeah. I got bacon, egg, and cheese on a hard roll. Absurd.
Okay.
I don't know if it's still there. But anyway.
I'm going to assume it's not.
So we went to the store and our interest in Magic, my group, had sort of waxed and waned over the period of that year. But it was a nice store with like couches and binders of all the sets set up that you could thumb through. And so we spent a lot of time just thumbing through the sets that we had missed and buying packs of Urza's Legacy.
Okay.
Somewhat related to that, recently Patrick Chapin asked me, Magic Hall of Famer, for those of you who don't know, what do you think is the most fun pack to open in the history of Magic? And I said, assuming we're talking about it's when the set came out, Urza's Legacy. A lot of cool cards in there, including some at lower rarities.
I know why this is your answer.
And the first set with foils.
Yep.
So I have a lot of fondness for this set. I also think we're going to get into the design space. They really don't do anything new here. It's just an extension of Urza's Saga. Cycling and Echo, two mechanics that I would grade as rancid, are here, and it's the lion's share of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But in both instances, the design space that is mined here, much, much better. So I'm a Urza's Legacy lover. Has a lot to do with my reintroduction to the game and starting kind of my arc towards more formal competitive play, going to PTQs and that sort of thing. And so I'm really excited to unpack this one.
This is when I wouldn't say this is exactly like when I started or anything like that, but like this is like when I'm starting to get my bearings around Magic, right? Maybe my dad bought a booster pack or two of Urza's Legacy for me because I have a recollection of opening packs from this. I don't have a recollection of opening any foils, but I do have a recollection of like opening the packs from this set, seeing the artwork and being like, oh, this stuff is cool.
When I got to the only game in town, I was looking through the display case because they had the binders where it was sort of the commons and uncommons and maybe the rares that weren't worth enough to put behind the case. And then there was the display case.
Okay.
And in the display case was a foil defense grid.
Okay.
I don't know if any of you have seen an Urza's Legacy foil defense grid.
It's still nice now.
I don't need to know what that card does. That's the coolest thing, the way that the light captures the barrier that's coming out or whatever.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. That card's not fun at all. Well, depends on if you're casting it.
It's not fun, but also it kind of goes after the right people. It's a confusing one.
Yeah, I agree.
It's complicated.
So, with that brief chit chat out of the way, let's start this show as we always start this show with the facts of Urza's Legacy. All right, everybody, it's time for the facts of Urza's Legacy. But before we begin, we got to give a shout out to our sponsors over at Tales of Adventure.
You can head over to toamagic.com and check out a selection of over 77,000 SKUs in stock, including 80 pieces of the Power 9, every single revised dual land, and singles of all shapes and sizes in every format that Magic has to offer. Every order placed with Tales of Adventure comes with free tracked shipping. UPS next day and 2-day shipping is offered for orders placed before 8 a.m. And Tales of Adventure has completed over 1 million orders lifetime, so you know you'll be in good hands with Michael Caffrey and his staff. If you'd be attending an event that Tales of Adventure will be at, when you're checking out, you can select the event pickup option, so you can simply pick up the cards you've ordered right at the event that you'll be at. You can find a list of events that Tales of Adventure will be attending right on their homepage, toamagic.com. Lastly, when checking out, be sure to use promo code RESLEEVABLES to get 5% off your entire order. Tales of Adventure Eternal lives here.
Alrighty, let's dive in and learn some things about Urza's Legacy, like, for example, that is the 16th expansion in Magic history. It was released on February 15th, 1999 in paper, and the pre-release was February 6th, 1999. And like most of the recent sets that we've covered, Urza's Legacy does have a pre-release card. It was a foil.
Beast of Burden.
Correct. It's stamped. It's not good. It's not good.
It's no Lightning Dragon.
But it is the kind of card that I think people of all shapes and sizes will look at and go like, I could see a place to play that.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
And an artifact certainly helps.
There you go. So I think it checks some fun boxes. Doesn't have to be a competitive good card, but is a card that people will look at and say, yeah, I could put that in my deck.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Yeah.
As far as its online release on Magic Online, that was March 29th, 2010. Let's talk about who the set was designed and developed by. We'll start with designed by Mike Elliott, who's your lead, Bill Rose, and Mark Rosewater. Development team is Henry Stern, that's the lead, Mike Elliott, William Jokic, Bill Rose, and once again, Mark Rosewater. And art direction by the wonderfully talented Ron Spears. We're moving on to how many cards this set did contain. It's 143 black bordered cards. This is a smaller set because it's the second part of the trio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Urza Saga is the big one, Legacy is the small one, the second one, and then Urza's Destiny, which will be the next set that we review, will be another small set. So as a result, 143 cards, 44 rares, 44 uncommons, and 55 commons. Urza's Legacy expansion symbol, well, it's a hammer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a big old hammer. It's meant to symbolize, like Urza is trying to figure out how to beat Phyrex and all their stuff. Sure, there's probably a story there that people care about. I just think it's a cool looking hammer.
It's work. It's
Yeah.
hard work.
Yeah.
Being an artificer, that's labor. You got to build stuff.
Yeah, we had Saga, we had Gears.
Mm-hmm.
This one we have a hammer, and then Destiny Beaker.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. So kind of cool stuff there. Urza's Legacy. It's the first expansion, as Patrick mentioned, right at the top, to feature foils. So let's talk about foils,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because nowadays we're recording this in November 2024. Foils are a little all over the place now, but also Magic has a million different stylings of cards now,
Yes.
right? If we're talking about back in 1999, there was just your general styling of cards. Yes, sometimes the colors in like the land text boxes changed, but for the most part, Magic cards just looked a particular way. Now you introduce foils into the equation, and now you're having, as you mentioned, and you actually lived yourself, a real experience with opening booster packs and going like, holy crap, I didn't even know this was a thing I could open.
And this was the first sort of thing that created a collector subset of sorts.
Yep.
There were people at my store who were saying, I'm going to try to make a foil set.
Okay.
Or get all the foil rares at least, or whatever. Really hard pursuit, but it's the type of thing that doesn't really impact you if you're not engaging with it,
Mhm.
which is sometimes with the way that Magic does some of the more collectible things now, there's different art treatments and different frames, and it can come at the expense of recognizability for people who are not heavily invested.
Yep.
I mean, we can go back to the Antiquities episode, and Wizard said, after that, we thought the multiple art treatments were just confusion for no real value.
Yeah. And there was like 4 Vodalian soldiers, like that 1,
Yeah.
2.
But,
Yeah.
you have the Urzatron and Antiquities and the Mistress Factory cycle. Nowadays, even invested players regularly run into things where it's, I don't know what that is. I haven't seen that before. It's written in the language from Lord of the Rings, which I'm not literate in.
Yep.
This is one where, it's just shiny. No impact to the user. If they identify the normal card, they can identify this as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very low opportunity cost, low downside, if there's even any downside at all. And the collectability element really exploded once this was introduced.
Yeah, I would have liked to have been there just to see what that was like for people just to open foils. And, the fun thing too back then was obviously cards had a value, but the idea of like, well, how, you open like a foil Pelincron or something, right? Or a Grim Monolith, and it's like, how much is this worth? It's like, who knows?
I'll tell you how hot foils were on release.
Okay.
The only game in town had a policy. Nowadays, you open up a pack of a play booster and get a foil common. It's like, that's not worth anything.
Mm-hmm.
Any foil common, you can trade in the store for a pack. Any foil uncommon,
Okay.
you can trade in the store for 2 packs.
Okay.
Any foil rare, you can trade in the store for 5 packs. That was just standing offer. Didn't matter what it was.
Wow.
You open up a pack of Legacy and you got a foil Beeble that you didn't want. You just turn that in and re-roll and keep the rest of the cards. That's how hot they were.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Every foil common was like, even the unplayable ones were like $3, $4, $5.
Yeah, okay.
People just wanted it.
Yeah, because it's just so unique
Yeah.
and different. Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. Let's talk about text box frames. Urza's Legacy is the first expansion to feature appropriately colored text box frames for monocolored non-basic lands. Again, over the course of this show's history, and of course over the course of Magic's history, we saw different color text box frames, but this time around, it looks like they're just kind of fixed, for lack of a better term, and we're done with all of the trying out different stuff finally.
Yeah.
Looks like that's where we're at. Okay. Let's talk about how Urza's Legacy was sold. It was sold in 2 ways. We've got some 15 card boosties, which of course means 1 rare, 3 uncommons, and 11 commons. Packs featured artwork from
Beast of Burden.
Okay.
We are doubling down. We are making a big bet here. We believe in this selling the set.
Look at this guy. This is really good artwork.
It's cool.
For like a big monster. I'm sure it's probably between us right now, but yeah. Oh, hang on. I'm going to do it. I haven't done this yet. Hold on. Premium cards randomly inserted. 15 additional cards. Expert level. Take a little read ski here. Magic the Gathering. In this strategy game, you play with decks of illustrated cards instead of a board. These collectible cards represent magical spells and fantastic creatures. If you haven't played Magic the Gathering, look for the Magic the Gathering Portal Second Age trading card game. Okay. This is an expert pack. It says on the front and the back, rule book not included. If you haven't seen our Portal Second Age episode, you can go back and watch that. And I don't want to open this pack. What do I got on the bottom? Anything? No, nothing. Just some credit to like where the pack is from and everything else. And then you can go to www.wizards.com/magic for more
there
information.
is something interesting on here, which is premium cards. Premium card odds approximately 1 in 100 cards. You can run afoul of gambling laws if you don't post the odds for certain things somewhere. Now, this is not actually giving you the full story because, of course, the foil commons and uncommons are a lot more available than the rares.
Yeah.
So 1 out of 100 cards translates to 1 out of every 7 or 8 packs.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that a rare is as likely as a common. So
Okay.
I think they're I think when they post these odds on boosters now, they're a lot more specific about via rarity, here are the odds of XYZ.
Okay. That would make sense. All right. So that's Legacy Booster. That's one way this set was sold. Next one are the 4 pre-constructed theme decks, one of my favorite parts of the show. All right. Urza's Legacy has 4 theme decks. All 4 are 2 color. I'll give you the name. You tell me what color you think the deck is.
Okay.
Crusher.
Green, red.
Try again.
Green, white.
Correct.
Okay.
Quote. I think this is on the back of the box probably, but before Urza can complete the legacy and build the famed ship Weatherlight, the Planeswalker must overcome some large obstacles, hulking worms and treefolk. They're big, they're bad, and they're worth the wait. Once you bring them out, Crusher is bound to leave your opponents hurting, end quote.
So this is green, white echo?
I mean, there's worms and treefolk. There might be some echo in there. The rares in this deck are, you got any guesses? 2 rares.
Multani Myro Sorcerer?
That would be a good one to have in here.
It's just too much fun.
Yeah.
Especially when you can't cast your cards. Because they're all 6-mana creatures with Echo.
I think that should be in here. I'm actually a little upset that it's not. I've got Defense of the Heart.
That was going to be my second guess.
And then Weatherseed Treefold.
Whoo! That's
card,
a nice one.
Was that good and constructed back then?
Well, keep in mind that you had Gaia's Cradle. So there were a lot of creatures in this space where they weren't high tier 1 if you were really trying to win. It's not what you were doing.
Okay.
But if we're talking, let's call it FNM level standard.
Okay.
For sure, you could bang with a lot of green cards in here.
Oh man. 2 copies of Mother of Runes.
Oh my god.
I've got 3 Simian Grunts.
Want to get 4 Mother Runes.
Yeah, that's right. Some Yavimaya Granger, Scions, Yavimaya Worms. You got a couple Disenchants, copy of Symbiosis.
Symbiosis is nice.
That's one of I like that card a lot when I was growing up. There's Treetop Village.
Ooh.
There you go. 3 Drifting Meadows. It doesn't actually look like there's like
3 Drifting Meadows.
It doesn't look like there's actually like that much Echo. Like there's 1 Cradle Guard. There's not like a ton.
Yeah, the Simian Grunts.
Yeah, there are 3 Simian Grunts. Good call. But yeah, this looks like a generically fun green-white deck.
And then there's a Yavimaya Granger.
2.
Is there a Multaney's Acolyte?
No.
Okay.
No, there's not.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Okay. All right. Let's go to deck number 2 here, which is Phyrexian Assault. Colors?
Blue, black.
Try again.
Black, red.
Correct. Quote, while Urza builds his legacy it's not the same, sorry. While Urza builds his legacy and the famed ship Weatherlight, the Planeswalker must defend against an onslaught of foul beasts. Okay. Phyrexian Assault gives you an unending barrage of creatures and creature removal cards that can quickly break down even the most formidable defense. The rares in this deck are, here's 2, 1 red and 1 black.
Phyrexian Plague Lord?
That is 1.
And the red one. Let me think for a minute here. Is it Impending Doom?
It is not.
Okay.
I don't think you'll get this one.
Is it the Phoenix?
It is not.
Really bad.
It
No,
is
okay,
not.
then I'm tapping.
It is Molten Hydra.
Ooh.
Which I always liked this card when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, it smells, but it's, again, pre-constructed fun.
Yeah.
That's 2 nice designs.
I think they did some
That's
good work
pretty
there.
good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
So this blue-black deck, you've got a Gaetu Encampment and a Spawning Pool, so you get both creature lands. That's fun. A Polluted Mire and a Smoldering Crater.
Okay.
So you get both cycling lands. Okay. Avalanche Riders, because, land destruction.
Mhm.
We'll talk about that card more later in the show. Bone Shredder, there's 2 of those. A couple of Goblin Medics. You mentioned the Phyrexian Plague Lord. There's also 2 Phyrexian Defilers, 2 Phyrexian Debasers.
Oh, yeah.
I got Viashino Cutthroat, Viashino Runner. What removal spells I got here? A couple Expunges, a Heat Ray, 2 Arc Lightnings, a Corrupt in your 12 Swamp, 10 Mountain deck.
Polluted Mire. Polluted Mire Corrupt.
Yeah,
That's a classic combo.
It's not all perfect.
It's nuts and gum.
Oh,
right
this
there.
is good. A main deck Engineered Plague. Sure.
Yes, yeah.
That'll show. That'll show your friends.
It's good with the Plague Lord.
Yeah. This isn't so bad.
No,
This isn't so bad.
this so far, we haven't gotten to the other 2. A market improvement over what we've gone through, certainly in Wrath Cycle.
Yeah.
Wrath Cycle, those precons were so poorly designed.
Yeah, those were not good. Those were not good.
Weatherseed Treefolk and Phyrexian Plague Lord are that's a card that 17-year-old me would want to own and know what to do with.
Yeah. Yeah, those are cool cards to say, these are in my collection.
Yeah.
Like you're at the school lunch table or something, or your local game store, check this thing out.
As opposed to, Equilibrium or whatever. Grafted Skullcap. Whatever's going on in those other decks.
Yeah, maybe a little better.
Can I just remove this from my deck?
Yeah.
Do I have to play with the deck as is?
Next up is Radiance Revenge. 2 colors.
Red, white.
No.
White, blue.
Correct. Before Urza can complete the famed ship Weatherlight, the Planeswalker must fight the new ruler of Sarah's realm, an archangel hell-bent on revenge. Radiance Revenge is a time bomb that explodes with artifact and opportunity spells. The rares in this deck are, there's 2 of them. I'll give you a hint, they're both artifacts.
Urza's Blueprints.
That is number 1.
And
I want you to get this right because you know the other one.
Is it Beast of Burden?
Is Ring of Gix.
Ring of God. Of course it's Ring of Gix.
It's Ring of Gix.
Oh.
All right, let's take a look at this deck list here. I've got 12 islands, 11 plains, 2 remote isles, 1 drifting meadow. Couldn't give this person or this deck creature lands for some reason. Okay. Fogbank, Mother of Runes. Those are 1-ofs. Radiant Dragoons are 1-of.
Fogbank Mother of Runes is a really rough combo to give to the player. Anyway.
You're never getting through. 2 Sanctum Custodian, 2 Sustainer of the Realms, 2 Ticking Gnomes, 2 Vigilant Drake, 2 Opal Champion of Pacifism. I've got 2 Miscalculations, 2 Opportunities, 3 Radiant Judgments. That's a lot of those. 2 Path of Peace. There's 2 Dragon Bloods. So I don't know. You just grind them and you beat them eventually.
Yeah, it's not really.
How do I kill my opponent?
This is not really a deck.
Opal Champion. That's a 3/3 for 3. Okay.
You Dragon Blood your Mother of Runes until it's the Abyss, I guess.
Yeah, sure. This is. You gotta go. Sure. This is not an easy way to kill someone.
No, this is going to be a sit down.
This deck, what's mobile for? I'm just seeing if this deck has anything resembling a Sarah Angel.
Do you think this might be something we could do for the tournament edition?
Okay.
Let's play the mirror and see if it comes down to decking. I bet it does.
I don't want to do that.
I bet if you just, you drop your opening hand, it's 5 lands, 2 spells, and you're like, yeah, cycle Drifting Meadow, you lose. Yeah. You're behind. Sure. You're behind now.
I found the way to win. It's Vigilant Drake.
Yeah, okay.
5 mana, 3/3 flyer. You pay 2 and a blue to untap it.
Yeah, I know that one.
Yeah, I didn't know that one. Okay. All right, that's your win con in combination with Dragon Blood. All right, last deck here. Time Drain.
Blue-black.
Try again.
Blue-red.
One more try.
Green-blue.
Correct.
Okay.
Quote. You could just say it.
Yeah.
As Urza builds his legacy by completing the famed ship Weatherlight, an unlikely band of fairies aids him. Use legions of free creatures and cycling cards in Time Drain to crush your opponents before they have a chance to prepare for battle. Make sure time is on your side. The rares in this deck, 2 guesses. They're both blue.
Palancron?
Wrong. You would think, given what I just read to you.
Let me think about this for a minute. And
I have a really good hint too.
All right.
When you're ready for it.
I'm ready.
All right, remember, they're both blue. They both start with the letter A.
It's not helping me enough. I'm blanking. I'm sorry.
All right. Anthroplasm.
I didn't know that was a magic card.
Okay. Archivist.
Oh,
you knew
Archivist.
That one. You knew that one.
Archivist is nice because you got Urza Blueprints and the blue-white one.
That's true.
So we got 2 of...
2 of the effect. 2 of the effect. Let's take a look at this deck.
Why would you give Blueprints to a blue deck? It's just Archivist, but like so much more mana. Mm-hmm. If you give that to a non-blue deck, and then we can appreciate that the color pie is a thing, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
no one play with these cards.
We got a 25 land deck here. It's got a Fairy Conclave and a Treetop Village. It's also got 2 Remote Isles and 2 Slippery cards.
Okay.
So this mana base is a banger. 2. What's the Acridian?
Acridian.
Okay, we got 2 of those.
Nice.
The aforementioned rares, 3 Cloud of Fairies, a Bloated Toad.
Ooh, the mirror.
Yep, there you go. 2 Peregrine Drakes, 3 Simian Grunts, 2 Thornwind Fairies, that's the pinger, Thran War Machine, Weatherseed Fairies, 2 Frantic Search, 2 Intervene, 2 Miscalc, an Opportunity, 2 Snap, a Rewind, 2 Exhaustion, 2 Hush, and these are definitely the 2 best cards in the deck, a Confiscate and a Zephyr's Embrace.
Yeah, I think there is something fun about pairing the untap your lands cards with Echo. There's a feeling of like, I'm getting a rebate, and then I can use the rebate to do something mana efficient or whatever. Sure. It's not necessarily synergistic, but it does feel like you're doing something.
All right, last but not least, let's talk about the Urza's Legacy official guide called the Official Urza's Legacy Game Guide. Yeah, we bought it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll hand this to you. You can leaf through that. It was released in April 1999. Remember, the set was released in February of 1999. So a little bit after the set was released, it was written by Duelist executive editor Will McDermott. Contents include a foreword by Henry Stern, a short story called Scars of the Legacy. This was a short story about Jahora, Teferi, and Karn. Okay, cool. There's card analysis. There's a visual spoiler. These are just, like the adjoining products. Now, if I remember, so the Saga one we made fun of because it told you how busted some of the cards were and to pair them with Black Lotus.
Yeah. Finally, an enabler good enough to play Black Lotus.
Yeah. This one, I don't really know if there's much going on in there.
Well, there are a lot more, I think, cautious with the low power commons and uncommons.
Okay.
Whereas everything in Saga was like, this card's good. This card's good. I'm going to see if I can get to the Grim Monolith set. Oh, no. Memory Jar.
Yeah. I like this.
Because they had to ban it before the set came
This
out.
is a good idea.
Oh, hold on. Did they not put it in here? Here we go.
They put every card in there.
Yeah, I just thumbed through the page.
Okay.
Memory Jar. Sorry.
All right, go
Memory Jar is potentially very strong in a deck designed around it.
Oh.
You'll need a lot of cheap cards so you can cast most of what you draw. Plus, you need to be aware of opponents who pack a lot of instants. In parentheses, you don't need to do this if you're doing this on turn 1. That's me.
Yeah, that you wrote that part.
You can minimize this danger by activating the jar when your opponent is tapped out or don't have lands in play. Yes, because they haven't taken a turn.
That's true.
Memory Jar seems like a perfect way to find the last bit of direct damage you need to finish your opponent, but it may appear too late in the game to have much impact. So they just didn't know. They had no clue.
No.
That's good.
No. That's all right. Hey, you know what? I can remember this is written by Duelists, not Wizards of the Coast. But I can appreciate that they did not know. They learned rather quickly.
Yeah, I guess it's better than it's on purpose.
Yeah.
Because at least it's like kind of complicated. There's things going on, like your opponent gets to do it too, that can be obfuscating or whatever, as opposed to the entry on Tolarian Academy, which is one of the more damning things I've ever read from a game designer.
Well, I got the Saga book. For those of you that weren't with us for the Saga episode, I want to see if I can find it really quick again. Yep. Here's our Tolarian Academy from, this is last episode, but we'll read it again here. Perhaps the most powerful of the legendary lands, Tolarian Academy combines well with artifacts that produce mana. In classic decks with Moxen and Black Lotus, thanks, the Academy will be able to produce huge amounts of mana on turn 1. That shouldn't be a goal.
You're fired. What are we doing here?
Tolarian Academy will also work well in blue control decks with Winter Orb, Artifact Mana, Fountain of Youth, etc. One of these cards is not like the other. Oh, that's fun. That's fun. We're going to keep this forever because that's such a great read, I must say. Those are the facts of Versus Legacy, everybody. Much like for Urza's Saga episode, we will not be doing lore for the Urza's block. Doesn't mean we won't be doing lore again in the future episodes. We're just not doing it here. So where do we go to next? Well, what does my script say? And what does the bottom bar say? It says the mechanics of Versus Legacy right after this. All right, everybody. Let's dive into the mechanics versus Legacy. Now, Patrick may have mentioned this a little bit earlier in the show, I think right at the top, before we dove into the facts. But look, we got no new mechanics here. We're just going to rehash some old mechanics because this is what happened when we were in 3-set blocks, right? You got your base set, Urza Saga, which introduces new mechanics, and then you explore them a little bit more in the second set, and then explore them ideally a little bit more in the third set. This isn't always how things went, and I know now in Magic in 2024, sets it's just like one set that introduces a couple mechanics, and then maybe they'll come back, maybe they'll revisit that world in a couple of years, who knows what. But this is what Magic looked like way back when. So what does that mean? That means we're going to do a little bit of a rehash on Cycling and a little bit of a rehash on Echo. So let's start with Cycling. As we mentioned during the Urza Saga episode, it was created by Richard Garfield during Tempest design. Cycling is a keyword ability, allows the player to pay a cost. That includes discarding the card. When the activated ability resolves, that player draws a card. Okay, cool. White has 1. It's Iron Will. Blue has 2. Cloud of Fairies and Miscalculation. Black has 2. SWAT and Unearth. Red, sorry about that whammy. You don't get any. Green, you get 3. Bloated Toad, Dark Watch Elves, and Repopulate. Lands, none. Those lands were in Saga, like Drifting Meadow and Friends. And then artifacts, none. So that means we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards with Cycling.
So we're looking at something about 7% of the set.
Yeah, not much.
Not a ton. This is a slightly better suite of designs, weighed against my critique of this is just too ambiguous to the average player, what's going on here or why you would ever do it.
Okay.
and too many of the cycling cards in Saga are pretty generically useful things where that obfuscation gets even worse. All right, SWAT. Yeah, you got no small creatures.
Was it 2 or less?
Yeah.
SWAT? Yeah.
Cool. Okay, I have a sense of when to cycle that. Bloated Toad. All right, you're not playing blue.
Yep.
Cycle it.
All
right. The designs are a little bit more in that space, which I appreciate. And I also think it's just correct to, hey, there's just not much design space here. When you go further down into Magic's history, they pair cycling with things like Delirium or, Madness or whatever.
Yeah.
Where you can actually get something resembling organic design space. Because there's nothing like that going on here except for a Fluctuator, which is kind of its own problem.
Yeah, that was in Saga.
Yeah. Just make a handful of designs. They're not very powerful. Air them towards being a little bit more obvious when you should be cycling them.
Yep.
And just sort of let this one go.
Well, then let's move on to Echo because there are some changes here. And there are more cards with Echo in this set as opposed to cycling. So, Echo is a keyword ability on permanents that requires the permanent's controller to pay its Echo cost at the beginning of their next upkeep after they gain control of it or sacrifice it. That's just a generic text on how Echo works. Okay, cool. In Saga, Echo was only on creatures, but in Legacy, now it's on artifacts, which is kind of a natural expansion to put it on like more stuff. Okay. In Saga, Echo was used mainly to get larger than normal creatures onto the battlefield, right? So this gave us reasons to play stuff like Cradle Guard and Albino Troll and Crater Hellion, stuff like that. All right, that's kind of fun. In Legacy, however, they decided to ramp it up a little bit by giving creatures like good ETB abilities alongside Echo.
This is a huge step forward for this mechanic, which I want to reiterate sucks. But this is actually identifying what did we do wrong the first time, and let's try to address it. If you go back to the Saga episode, a lot of the Echo design space, nearly all of it, I think, is just, here's an overstated creature, and you pay for it twice.
Yep.
And because that creature, nearly all of its value is nested in, well, it survives, and then I have this overstated thing going forward. Paying Echo's not really a decision. You just have to do it. And the times that you can't do it are usually a consequence of your lands getting blown up or bounced or whatever. The value that you get from playing it is whatever it does when it enters the battlefield and its ability to block the following turn. There aren't that many creatures in Saga, basically none, that have any value nested in that. So it's just a mandatory thing you have to do.
Yeah.
Here, we're starting to explore some useful design space. Let's call out Radiance Dragoons.
Well, I'll go through the whole list. No, you're fine. I'll go through the whole list. I got white cards here. I got 2 Karmic Guide and Radiance Dragoons. Blue, Raven Familiar. Black, Bone Shredder. Red, we've got Avalanche Riders and Guillotine Slinger. Green, Deranged Hermit, Multani's Acolyte, Simian Grunts, a personal favorite, Yavimaya Granger. And then artifacts, we have Ring of Gix, Thran War Machine, Thran Weaponry, Ticking Gnomes, Urza's Blueprints. That's 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's 15 cards with Echo in this set as opposed to the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards with cycling. And as you mentioned, Echo looks a lot better now because of the ETBs. Continue with your discussion on Radiance Dragoons.
Yeah, so we're talking over 10% of the set.
Yes.
That's a pretty big investment.
Yeah.
So Radiance Dragoons is a really good example of this. So what is Radiance Dragoons doing for you? Well, you gain a bunch of life.
Yep.
Right? It's also a really good blocker the following turn.
Yeah, I think it's a 2/5?
Yeah, 2/5.
Okay.
So that's like just a ton of defense, right? You gain a lot of life, it's a lot of defense. That's something where even if you don't pay the Echo, you can say, well, I got a good deal out of this because I gained a bunch of life and I had a really good blocker for one turn. Even though at the end of it, you are down a card.
Mm-hmm.
You just have the life and whatever the value was of it being a blocker the following turn.
Yep.
A lot of these design and Avalanche Riders, another really good example. Well, you got your card, which is the land that you blew up, and you got to hit because the thing has haste.
Yep.
And so you can not pay the Echo on that thing and just move on if that's what you want to do. Or sometimes if you're flooding out or you just got nothing going on, it's like, yeah, I'll keep this thing around. There's like a game there. The rest of these designs, for the most part, are some form of draw a card. You have, or get a card somehow.
Okay.
Bone Shredder, Gitu Slinger, those kill stuff.
Yep.
Multani's Acolyte, Yavimaya Granger, Raven Familiar. Those all generate a card.
Yep.
So first of all, blocking or even just chump blocking with those the following turn is pretty appealing because you got your card back, presumably, from whatever the thing was. And if you don't pay the echo the following turn because you want to do something else, say with the card you just drew or the mana you just got from your Mana Granger, you can say, well, I still got a card out of this thing.
Yep.
So you can just let it go. Although sometimes, again, you'll pay for it because you got nothing going on or you value the card for whatever reason. The only design in here, I believe, that is in the old mold.
See if he gets it right.
Well, set aside the artifacts because that's a separate thing.
Okay, fine.
Simian Grunts.
Yeah.
Simian Grunts is just numbers.
Yeah.
But that card is, first of all, just super fun. And second, because it's a 3/4 flash blocker, there are times where you are happy just to play it and trade and you surprised your opponent, right? It wasn't like they necessarily knew about it. And if you want to pay for the next turn, great. And if not, well, I ate something, presumably, or traded, don't care. So the designs are really focused in on addressing the issues that the Saga designs really wallowed in, which is just, albino troll. Yeah, of course you had to pay echo on it. There's
no reason not to.
The artifacts are trying to do some of that experience, but they really fail at it. Like you could talk yourself into, you don't have to echo Ring of Yix. You could just use it once or on your upkeep with echo on the stack. Same with Urza's blueprints, but they really are just pretty close to mandatory. A little that's fine, and it's hard to expand the design space to artifacts and not run into that problem. But the colored cards are just so leagues better. Like it's a very mindful approach to what is bad about echo the first time around, and the designs all speak to that directly.
So I like all of the colored echo cards. I like what they're trying to accomplish, right?
Yeah.
And then some of the artifacts that you mentioned, debatable on if they're accomplishing that goal. Like Ticking Gnomes does a good job of that.
Yep.
Cool.
That's one where also like maybe I don't care.
Yes.
Maybe I just block and shoot something and I just move on.
Then we have Thran War Machine.
Yeah.
Just a big dumbass.
Yeah.
Just 4 mana, 4/5 echo, and then it has to attack each turn of Fable. You're obviously paying the echo on this.
Well, this is also a novel way of approaching it.
Okay.
Which is you get to your upkeep after you play this and you go, well, it's going to die anyway.
Yeah, sure. Sure, if it's going to run it like a 5/5.
Whatever, I guess I don't have to pay it.
Sure.
It's not how I would go about doing it, but it is still sort of the same philosophy.
I just really love viewing this thing as just a big moron. It's like, I'm attacking now because I don't do anything else. I have to. Okay, sure. The only argument for a card like this is because it's an artifact and because of all of the fast mana. It's like, oh, well, you could play this on turn 1, maybe. Right? But you might have to sacrifice some things to pay it on turn 1, like a Black Lotus or something. So maybe it doesn't even work correctly. It's very strange. Its existence alongside all of these other cards where it's like, hey, ETB, gain 5 life, make a bunch of squirrels, all this other stuff. And then there's just me, machine, me, pay, you pay echo, me attack now. Yeah, it just sticks out.
So we talk a lot about, we get to go through these old guides and stuff and just see what they said about things. Making 1 million mana on turn 1, that's fine.
Yeah.
Or we didn't really know what was going on in Memory Jar. Okay, fine. A philosophy that undergirds Magic's development at this time. It is not said out loud, but you can find it all over the place. From, I guess, Wrath Cycle through Odyssey is Juggernaut's too good.
Yeah.
Clearly people like the Juggernaut experience, but it's too powerful. How do we give them Juggernaut at the right power level?
Yeah. What's the Juggernaut from
Otani?
It's something. I have to look it up now.
Yeah,
I have to look it up.
It is Threshold Juggernaut.
Odyssey MTG, Odyssey Scryfall. I know exactly what it is.
Ontari Juggernaut.
Because I remember when I saw it, I'm like, this card is busted.
Right.
And it is not.
It's not Juggernaut until I'm ready for it to be Juggernaut.
Yes.
And then they are in trouble.
All right. This is just me doing this in the middle of the show.
It's just too good. The card
Otarian
Juggernaut. There you go.
4 mana, 2/3, can't be blocked by walls. Threshold +3/+0, attacks each turn of Fable. It's such a callback to a previous card. You're like, man, if I get this thing going, they're so dead.
Right. And I get to time it too. Because, sometimes they got that Volcamon Hava. And if you just had a little more time, to kill that and whatever.
Yep.
And then the process of killing it, you get to threshold.
Yeah.
And now finally you have Juggernaut.
Yeah.
That's what you have to show for
all
your
this work. Now I have a Juggernaut. Look at me.
So yeah, there's just a lot of how do we give people Juggernaut at the right power level going on at this time. And that's just another example of that philosophy at work.
Good news, everybody. We got more free spells. This is exciting. The free spells are, if you were with us last episode, you get to untap your lands after you play them. So there was like Peregrine Drake and what was the saga? What was in Saga?
Great Whale.
Yeah, Great Whale, stuff like that. So we got 4 in this set. These 4 are all extremely good. Cloud of Fairies, Frantic Search, Palancron, and Snap. All 4 of these cards are outrageous.
Yeah, so you have a free unsummon that happens to work with the free 2-mana creature.
Yeah.
That's nice. You have Dark Ritual Ancestral Recall on 1 card in Frantic Search.
Yeah.
And then you have an infinite combo with itself.
And Palancron, yeah.
A card you can justify playing just on rate, just like for what it says it does.
Just free 4/5 that your opponent can't kill.
Yeah, and it's also just, okay, well, if you have 12 mana, that's infinite.
Yeah.
It's just by itself, it's infinite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoopsie.
It's also, I'm sorry, it's after Great Whale. Like, it's the same mana cost. Why do you have to do so much better
I don't know.
than a rare that you made 4 months ago?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing that's baffling to me is the same mana cost. Like you just did Great Whale.
You just did this.
Yeah, so why doesn't this cost like 8 or 9?
Right, yeah. If it cost 8 and it was an infinite combo with itself for whatever reason,
Yeah.
I would still kind of furrow my brow at it, but at least it wouldn't. This feels like 2 people were arguing about which design to do,
Okay.
and they resolved it by, we're doing both.
Sure.
I think that's, I wouldn't say that's above 50%, but I think that's more likely than maybe the average viewer would realize.
Okay. We got some more sleepy enchantments. These are enchantments that they don't do anything until it's triggered and they turn into a person or some sort of creature or something. There were the hidden ones in green in Urza Saga. There were the opal ones in white. Opals in white, hidden in green, veils in blue. There you go. So when the sleepy enchantments turn into creatures, they're no longer enchantments. So in white, we've got Opal Avenger and Opal Champion. In black, there's Lurking Scourge. And then in green, I have a 6 there. I think I've only got 1 in Hidden Gibbons. Yeah.
That card's nice.
That card wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. I want to check my work here really quick, make sure I didn't make a boo-boo. Hiddens? Yeah, because there's just not enough cards in this set for there to be more. Yeah, Hidden Gibbons. What's this one do again?
I think it's the enchantment one.
Yeah, when one of your opponents successfully casts an instant or interrupt spell, if Hidden Gibbons is an enchantment, it turns into a 4/4 that counts as an ape, single green. Take that blue.
This card was
beat that.
This card actually had a purpose. I mean, the problem that I have with a lot of the veiled stuff at a baseline, the sleeping enchantments, a lot of them say when your opponent plays a card, where it's like, well, of course they're going to do that at some point. It's not really, there's no way to really build around it. And so there's just this question of, is there enough rate here or not to play it? Not really that interesting. And the counterplay on the other side is also not that much fun. Just don't play anything.
Yeah, sure.
When you're talking about something like Hidden Gibbons, which is very extreme, but about a very particular opponent, now it's, okay, like I mean it. I mean it enough to put this in my deck or my sideboard. And you can actually work around it by just not playing this individual card type rather than cards overall.
Now my brain's just going like, why wasn't Hidden Gibbons ever like in Legacy? Like as a thing against like Teamer Delver.
If I think that there would be a chance this card would have shown up a little bit here and there, if not for Carpet of Flowers. Carpet of Flowers is kind of just that, except they don't have to cast anything.
Yeah, all right. No, you're right. I just can't imagine like let's say you're in a Teamer Delver mirror and you just go like fetch, get trop, play Hidden Gibbons, and it resolves. What are they going to do? Like not cast Brainstorm or like not cast Ponder?
Well, you're also in trouble. Excuse me. You're also in trouble if they play Carpet of Flowers. Issues that Hidden Gibbons has is, well, I have a Tarmogoyf, which is bigger.
Yeah, that part's an issue.
We get to Hellbent and I draw this and it doesn't do anything. I guess Carpet has the same issue.
Yeah.
And also just like you still can get submerged in all the 0 and 1 mana.
Yeah, I mean, look, they have ways they can interact with it.
No, I think it's not a ridiculous card.
Yeah.
The reason that Carpet sort of overtakes it, some of it is just rate. I would say it's just a little bit more powerful. But Hidden Gibbons kind of assumes I want to attack in the first place.
Sure.
Whereas Carpet is, well, I'm playing a combo deck. This is busted too.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, I do think that card is underrated. Like it should have shown up here and there. Certainly when Legacy was a less powerful format 10 or 12 years ago.
Yes, that's what I'm mostly saying. Yeah. Like Temur Delvermere is like a decade ago. Mm-hmm. This thing just couldn't make it in there. It's like bigger than Nimble Mongoose when it has Threshold. Whatever. Just
card type for your Tarmogoyf that you don't normally have access to.
Sure. There you go.
Can't bolt it.
There you go.
You basically need to have a different monkey, Hooting Mandrills, to be able to handle this.
Leave that over there. That card stinks. Urza's Legacy. It has 3 mirrored pairs. Defender of Chaos versus Defender of Law. These were knights. One was red and one was white. They both have flash and protection from the mirrored color. So one has protection from red and one has protection from white, and each is a 2/1. 2/1 creature. Okay, cool. Then we have Rack and Ruin versus Peace and Quiet. One of these is much better than the other. Rack and Ruin was destroy 2 artifacts, and Peace and Quiet was destroy 2 enchantments. And then there was Sick and Tired versus Hope and Glory. Sick and Tired, I think, gave -1/-1 counters. It's a black card. I'm checking.
I think it's -1/-1 to 2 creatures.
Let's see if you're right and I'm wrong. 2 target creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn. Correct. And then the other one, there was an instant. And then this one is Hope and Glory.
Probably just the opposite.
Yeah, this is 1 and a white as opposed to 3 mana. It's only 2. Hope and Glory is actually like a little better. Untap 2 target creatures. Each of them gets +1/+1 until end of turn.
Yeah, you can't exactly mirror them because it's just too weird against Symbiosis.
Yeah,
so sure. You had to junk it up a little bit, which is why the untap thing is there.
And then we got 3 creature types introduced in the set. They're a bunch of weirdos. We got Beeble, we got Carrier, and we have Sponge. Mm-hmm. Sponge is fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that didn't come up in Fallen Empires or Alliances because they did a lot more spongy type creatures back then.
Yeah, that's true.
Your coral reefs and what have you.
If memory serves, I think this is like the only set with Beeble.
I think outside of Destiny do.
Oh, I think you're right.
They've got there's Grey Ogre Beeble and then there's Sea Snid Beeble.
Sea Snid Beeble.
And I don't remember which one is in which set, but I think Saga has the Snid.
I'm doing a quick search right now. These are probably between us. Let's see. I know there's some in like a fake set, right? Because there's like some sort of unglued or unhinged set. Yeah, okay. So Bouncing Beebles, that's Sea Snid Beeble. Good job by you. That's in Destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sea Snid Beeble.
For our younger viewers, by which I mean anyone under the age of 40, when we say Sea Snid, we are referring to
5-mana 3/3.
A 5-mana 3/3 with an ability that maybe is useful 10% of the time.
Yeah.
Named after Sea Snid.
Yeah. And the Grey Ogre Beeble is in Legacy.
Yeah.
That one's Bouncing Beeble. Okay, cool. God, we're so old. Anyway, mechanics done. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, let's talk about the cycles in Urza's Legacy. All right, everybody, it is now time for the cycles of Urza's Legacy. But before we go over them, we got to give a shout out to our buddy Brian Colville and his wonderful YouTube channel, Bosch and Roll.
Head over to youtube.com/BoschandRoll to watch Eternal Constructed Specialist Brian Colville play a new Eternal deck every single weekday. With over 1,000 videos in his YouTube archive, if there's a certain Eternal card or deck that you want to see in action, Brian has almost certainly played with it, and there will be video for you to watch of it. Best of all, Brian is outrageously good at Magic, as he's a SCG Tour Invitational Champion, a Grand Prix Champion, and an Eternal Weekend Vintage Champion. YouTube.com/BoschandRoll, where Magic history is played every day.
All right, everybody. Cycles, my favorite part of our show. We only have 3 this time around. One of them is a real doozy, though, and I've decided I'm going to save the best one for last. I'm doing a little editorializing right now, so Sorry, John, our editor. I'm going backwards. We're going to start with sleeping enchantments. Each of these rare enchantments sacrifices itself for a big effect if a certain requirement is met. We've gone over these in Saga and this set. So I've got five. White is Planar Collapse.
Mhm.
Blue is Second Chance. Black is Brink of Madness. Red is Impending Disaster. And then green is Defense of the Heart. So basically, a requirement happens. These things sit here and don't do anything, and then something happens that sets them off. So, as an example, Second Chance, 2 and a blue enchantment. During your upkeep, if you have 5 life or less, you sacrifice Second Chance and you take an extra turn after this one. Or the one that's probably the most well-known of these, if I have to guess, is Defense of the Heart, which is a card I really liked when I was a kid. So this was 4 mana, 3 and a green. During your upkeep, if one of your opponents controls 3 or more creatures, sacrifice Defense of the Heart, search your library for up to 2 creature cards and put those creatures into play, shuffle your library afterward.
Awesome.
I think that's a cool design, actually.
Yeah. I mean, some of these are, unfortunately, they're kind of keying off of, I believe at least the white and red ones are tracking both players.
Let me go to the white one first.
Because I think the white one is a Wrath and the red one's an Armageddon.
Oh, I remember the red one. We're going to get to the red one in a second. This white one is, where are you? Planar Collapse. 1 and a white. During your upkeep, if there are 4 or more creatures in play total, sacrifice Planar Collapse and destroy all creatures. They can't be regenerated. Correct.
Yeah, I think the ones that are just your opponent has agency over this fully, and they can play into it or not.
Yeah.
The Defense of the Heart and the Second Chance.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I guess Second Chance is a little confusing because you can be paying life, but in the normal base case, the opponent is acting autonomously about whether or not they want to trigger the thing.
Yep.
I think when it becomes both players are playing this like game of chicken, it starts becoming really opaque and stressful for an outcome that's not that fun, like Wrath with a bunch of creatures in play, or Get In when there's a bunch of lands in play.
The aforementioned Geddon is an Impending Disaster, 1 in a red. During your upkeep, if there are 7 or more lands in play, sacrifice Impending Disaster and destroy all lands. That's fun.
Yeah, this is not the game that I really want to play. I'm not interested in onboard Armageddon that maybe I can play around
Sure.
and maybe not, depending on what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah, probably not the best experience. Okay, so that's cycle 1. Let's go to cycle 2 now, which is recurring auras. Auras are lame back in the day. They're cool now, but they were lame back in the day. Each of these common aura enchantments returns to its owner's hand when it's put in a graveyard from play. White has, I think it's pronounced Cessation.
Cessation. Yeah.
Cessation. Blue has slow motion for you. Let's see. Black has Sleeper's Guile.
Mhm.
Then I've got Sluggishness. And then the good one, Rancor in green. The best of the bunch.
Yeah.
By far.
What do you think? +2/+0 and trample recursive on death when the design compels your opponent to interact with the card in question is better than red 1. The creature can't block.
Yeah.
And then somehow if that dies, how would it die? It can't block anymore. Now you get to get it back and do something else.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We appreciated Rancor a lot of the time. I don't know if the sentiment was common.
Okay.
It's like there's a cycle and green gets the superstar.
Yeah,
And
that
the
never
other
happens.
ones smell.
Yeah, that never happens.
Never happens.
Yep.
We are finally away from, Tolarian Academy, Shiving Gorge sort of thing. Green gets the busted one for once. Thank goodness.
Well, green gets the busted one again because this is the cycle that slow rolled for you, and it's the creature lands, everybody. Each of these uncommon lands, they need to be tapped. Okay, cool. They can be tapped for a mana of a given color. So, this land enters battlefield tapped, and then it taps for a specific color. Okay, fine. And then it has an activated ability to turn into a creature. This cycle has been reprinted, not a ton, and it obviously influenced creature lands over the course of Magic's very long history, but these were kind of the OGs. So I know Patrick knows all 5 of these, but I'm going to give you a chance to show your big brain. So white.
Forbidden Watchtower.
Blue.
Fairy Conclave.
Black.
Spawning Pool.
Red.
G2 Encampment.
Green.
Treetop Village.
Bang. These cards all rule.
They're so good. And again, talk about for the sensibilities of the time. The people who made the game think it's good that Tolarian Academy makes 20 mana on turn 1. They wrote a book about it. Imagine if we slowed the game down a little bit, and in exchange, I got a tactical game piece that I could use extra mana on that works towards drawing the game to a conclusion. Could you imagine that? I mean, they kind of do mess it up because the white and black ones are so much better at blocking.
Yeah, Forbidden Watchtower is defensive.
I mean, even arguably, like, G2 and Kamen is right on the line.
Yeah.
I think future creature land designs are much more about attack triggers and such, and, try to make it more about on board I'm attacking and not I have a surprise blocker back that's slowing the game down.
Yep.
I also really love enters the battlefield tapped here. That's the way to get him at the right power level.
Okay.
One reason is there's a really easy story to tell yourself. You have to spend time building this, or it's dormant. There's creatures in it, and it takes a little bit of time to explore or to get them to animate or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
So there's a story that's very easy to explain. It also solves the question of, is this affected by summoning sickness?
That's a really good point.
Yeah, because that does actually come up with like the Jade statues of the world, because artifacts have these rules where they're not affected by summoning sickness in the tap case.
Yep. So
Icy Manipulator, use that right away.
Yep.
But there are some artifacts that start as artifacts and you can turn into creatures. And then there's the question of, well, does it have... And the answer is no. Artifacts have this weird rule where artifact creatures have summoning sickness like everything else, but activated abilities, you can act blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
It's not like the biggest rules burden, but it does come up once or twice in pretty much every player's experience playing Magic. These don't come into play untapped unless there's a lot of weird stuff going on.
Yeah.
So you never have to answer the question, is this thing affected by summoning sickness or not?
These are just wonderful cards that have seen a ton of play across a ton of formats. Like a card like Treetop Village, right? This is actually what I really like about Treetop Village is this card is clearly good in standard. Like it's a standard level card, but it saw play in extended.
Yeah.
And older formats with higher power level because it's just a really good, not overpowered, but like, yeah, I can fit 2 Treetop Villages into my green-black rock deck. Yeah, sure. That gives me a little bit of wiggle room to figure out ways to attack, less win conditions I have to play. Obviously, there's a cost up front of the land entering the battlefield tapped, all that jazz. But none of these cards are so powerful that they're unfun to play against. And even if I think of the creature lands that exist, like when Celestial Colony came out and those ones, like those cards are clearly more pushed, but that's also because they're 2 colors, right? So you're getting a lot for your money with those cards. They ETB tapped, they tap for 2 different colors of mana, and then the activation costs on those are a lot more expensive than these, which again makes some sense, but they're more powerful and like power creep is a thing, right? But those cards are also really fun to play with and against, but these are the OGs.
These are really wonderful designs, especially given the sensibilities of the era.
Yeah.
And one way that you can tell is that cards like Treetop Village or cards with flashback or whatever, why are those cards good to put in your deck? And often the answer is some version of, well, sometimes you flood out.
Yeah,
and this card can be worth 2 cards if the game just goes on for a long time and maybe I draw too many lands. Those cards are historically, underappreciated by newer or less skilled players, because as a competitive player, you and I know that sometimes our draw sucks, and cards that help you when your draw sucks is a useful thing to have.
Yep.
These cards, in spite of fulfilling that role, are beloved by casual players too, because the story is so good. It's so viscerally satisfying to tap 2 lands and move your Fairy Conclave up and then attack with it. Look what I'm doing over here with my land. It just became a creature and now it's attacking you. How cool is that?
Yep.
So even though you and I can appreciate them as, variance reducers or, sometimes my green-black deck, we strip all the resources out. And if I have this thing left over, I'm basically up a card on them in the race to see who gets something good first. We can appreciate it on that level. And also casual players can just be like, yeah, it's fun. It's cool.
Yeah.
Look at me. Look at this Treetop Village. Look what I just did.
Treetop Village is such a banger of a card.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
I have as someone who does not like foils, I have a playset of foil legacy Treetop Villages.
Yeah.
Just in case
Sure.
one day I want to be ready if it ever comes up for some reason.
Oh, here's the thing about me. So I generally, when I play in tournaments, I play with the newest version of a card. OG Treetop.
No question.
And it's not even like the 10th edition Treetop Village is bad. It's not about that.
No.
It's the OG Treetop.
I want to give respect to the person or people who created this idea.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. Yeah, anyone can cover a track. It's not that interesting. I want to know who had the original idea. I want to appreciate that. That's the reason that I gravitate towards older cards. And yeah, your sensibilities are going to be, and everyone's going to feel differently about that sort of thing. A lot of people just pick the art they like the best or just what they happen to have. But these, get the originals.
Yeah, these are great. These are absolutely great. That's it for cycles, everybody. Only 3 this time around, which means we're going to take a short break. But when we come back, we've got a lot of trivia to go over and a bunch of stories to tell about various cards right after this. All right, everybody, it is trivia time here on the Resleevables. We're covering some Urza's Legacy action, and we've only got 2 little random pieces of trivia. So let's go over those real quick. Avalanche Riders, which we talked about a little bit on the show, 4-mana 2/2, haste, echo, enter the battlefield, destroy a land. Well, it was the first Magic card designed by a Magic Invitational winner, and that was Darwin Castle. And this is where the Magic Invitational really started to impact things, which is super cool.
And I believe, if memory serves, maybe this is in the notes and whatever, I believe Darwin submitted this card as just no echo, which is kind of crazy because like Ravenous Baboons was a rare recently.
Yeah.
That is just way worse than this on multiple fronts.
Yeah.
But I do like the solve of, well, we'll give it echo. Now it speaks to the block. So in sort of a historical lens, people will know, oh, it has echo. This must have been from the Urza block.
Okay.
But also because it appreciably helps its play pattern and overall rate.
Yeah. This thing should have echo. Come on.
Come on.
What are we doing? Second random piece of trivia is some number of the Urza's Legacy pre-release card, Beast of Burden, didn't have its, it was without its foil date stamp and expansion symbol. Whoopsies. These things happen. Nobody's perfect. All right. Let's talk about banner restricted cards like we did in the Urza Saga episode because, well, get a couple here. Let's start with Memory Jar, which we haven't talked about much on this episode of the show yet. It was banned in Standard, Extended Legacy, and Urza's block, constructed, and restricted in Vintage in March 1999. Oops. Yeah, so basically, this is our first card that has ever been like emergency banned. They just said, we fucked up. This is out of here and everything. And my favorite part of this is I have notes for when cards have been unbanned, which I'll go over. Like we've got Grim Monolith and Crop Rotation, everything else. Not here. Just big mistake. And they just said, get this out of here. That's our bad.
Yeah. I mean, I can appreciate doing the emergency ban. Standard was completely haywire. And at some point you'd need to draw a line and say, we're not accommodating more of this stuff. And then soon we get to Mercadian Mask where we're just going to be powering down Magic generally to get out from under this debt. To me, Memory Jar is more of a sin of mana doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Than it is Jar itself. Jar itself is busted. You shouldn't do it for reasons. But the core problem, which doesn't get solved for a bit, is Tolarian Academy, Tinker, Frantic Search. We just don't have mana as a balancing mechanism anymore.
Yeah. And
so anything that has the sort of immediate impact of something like Memory Jar that is now not bound by mana. And also, what's the best thing to do when you're not bound by mana? Draw 7 cards. You know, it's not. There's part of the reason it sounds like they didn't really understand Jar when we were reading that book. It's if you have it in your head, mana matters. I could see how a team with the sensibilities of the time would say, yeah, we can do this.
Now, remember, the book is written by the Duelist people. It's not written by WotC.
Oh, because the Saga one was.
Yeah, so that's the only difference is like those books are written by Duelists, but you know, and what is the conversation and communication between Duelist and Wizards of the Coast at that time? No idea. But it is worth noting that Duelists and the people who are writing those books, those are people who are heavily ingrained in Magic.
Yeah. And
also are just like, I don't know, this is probably pretty good. And it's like, no, this card's outrageous.
Yeah. Well, like imagine your frame of reference. It's, well, you know, Time Twister and Wheel of Fortune, right? Those cards can be super good, but they cost 3.
Sure.
And There are times where it's 3 mana and you feel the fact that it costs 3. Or if I play it here, my opponent's going to get the better end of it because they're going to go first with all of their cards and mana. And this costs 5. So what could the problem possibly be? We know that this card at 3 is, it's powerful and splashy, but it's not the most busted thing that we do. And now what about 5? And it's like, well, it's actually -3 because of Tolarian Academy.
Yeah, sure.
And that drawback that you are imagining, I wheel and you go first, that doesn't exist on turn 1. And it doesn't exist at all if I kill you on the spot.
That's also true.
So
yeah,
that's how far off they were.
Yeah.
They didn't realize how bad the problem was.
Yeah.
Even if you have a sense of it, you're negotiating against yourself, not understanding what the lay of the land actually is.
It was bad. It was bad.
Here's you could mail one in and get a booster.
Here's another card that is iced. Tinker was banned in Legacy and restricted in Vintage in September 1999, banned and extended in December 2003, and banned in Commander in March 2009. I don't have any unbanned notes.
So this one it's some of the worst sensibilities of Saga Block.
Okay.
It might be the worst defender of them all. There are others. But, all right, so you make Black Lotus in Alpha.
Okay.
And everyone knows that card is too good.
Okay.
What if we can find a way to give someone the Black Lotus experience that's actually okay?
Okay.
So, Lotus Blue. Maybe that's also not what you should be doing for Standard, but clearly some of what you're tapping into is that playing with fire. Hey, it's Black Lotus over here. Not Black Lotus all the time, but enough of the time that you would be interested in playing with this card.
Okay.
Lion's Eye Diamond. Lion's Eye Diamond is probably too transparently, it's not Black Lotus. It's a different thing unless you're playing with very specific cards. But you understand, it's not a mistake that Ruby Medallion is called Ruby Medallion, that the entire cycle is named after the Moxen.
Yeah, sure.
Because they're tapping in.
Sure.
We're giving you a Mox to play with. And in fact, you can make this better than a Mox if you're playing with 2 cards per turn of the color in question. And it's not entirely fake because we've seen combo decks with Sapphire Medallion in Old Extended and Ruby Medallion currently in Modern, right?
Yep.
There's a lot to gain from that. We look at these old cards, Ancestral Recall, Black Lotus, Time Walk. What if we gave you that? A hint of it, where you could talk yourself into it. And sometimes those cards are actually quite good. Something that happens in Saga Block is that they take cards that were fine and had guardrails on them and just blow the guardrails off. Is like, if you told me Tinker was printed in Antiquities and then Transmute Artifact was in Legacy, that would make sense. Okay, so we did Tinker. That's way, way too good. What's the problem with Tinker? You're cheating 12 mana. Okay, what if we give you the Tinker experience, but you had to pay the difference in mana? So you still get tutoring and you still get the sacrifice utilities or whatever, but you're not just cheating 10 mana. Like, that's not the thing that's going on here.
Sure.
That would make sense to me as a progression.
Yep.
Going from Transmute Artifact to Tinker, and in a way that's it's arguably easier to cast if you're playing an artifact heavy deck.
Yeah. Because it's only single blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened here? Like, what? We're already in the world where we're just hanging on by a thread of the concept of mana as a balancing mechanism in the game.
Sure.
Yeah, just go get whatever you want. I mean, you had to have an artifact, right?
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough to do.
Was it good with Academy? Yes. Was it good with Memory Jar? Briefly.
Yeah. Not for very long.
Not for very long,
Yeah.
but it was. Come on. This one is just so. It's like you're not even trying. You're just not even trying.
I got an artifact for you to tinker away. You ready? Grim Monolith. Let's talk about it. It was banned in Legacy and restricted in Vintage in September 1999 and banned and extended in December 2003. This one actually has been unrestricted in formats. Unrestricted in Vintage in June 2009 and then unbanned in Legacy in June 2010.
Okay.
Obviously a powerful card.
Yeah, I think this is right up on the line of acceptable for extremely powerful formats.
Yeah.
And not acceptable as a baseline experience.
Yeah.
So you play it in Vintage and you can play it in Legacy. And it subsidizes some decks that, certainly in Legacy, there are a bunch of decks that lead on Monolith that you probably couldn't play otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
The mono brown decks of the world.
Yeah, your workshop decks.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. Sure.
Yeah, sure. So, not a card you should be introducing in Standard along with all these other whatevers.
Tinkers and Jars,
Just
Academies,
like, come on,
Lotus
come on.
Petal. And
Come on, it's like you made Treetop Village. I know somewhere there's a voice inside of you that's whispering, do more Treetop Villages. Like, figure out a way to do more Treetop Villages. As it stands in sort of the total arc of Magic's history, I think this is, it's good for the formats it's allowed in. It's fine.
Crop rotation. It was banned in Legacy and restricted in Vintage in September 1999. It was unbanned in Legacy in September 2004, so you can play 4 copies, and the lands decks, they play plenty. And then unrestricted in Vintage in June 2009.
This one was I think it was correctly underestimated initially because there just wasn't that much to do with it. It's like you can either go get a Cradle, that's cool, that has moments of being really good. You go get a Strip Miner or Wasteland, okay, but you're still paying 2 cards for the one, whatever. Or maybe, later in the game, you convert one of your forests into a Treetop Village.
Sure.
It's pretty innocuous. As time goes on, there's more stuff to do with it. It becomes really troubled. And now the Eternal formats have such just a high power level generally that, this is super good, but it's competing in a sea of other super good things to be doing.
Sure. It's a fine enough card. It is powerful, but nothing crazy. Frantic Search, a little crazy. It was banned in Legacy and restricted in Vintage in September 1999. Banned and extended in September 2003 and banned in Pauper in 2011. It has been unrestricted in Vintage since June 2010.
Yeah, the cards that call out untapping lands are just naturally going to be less powerful in Vintage because so much of the mana is being generated by artifacts.
Yeah.
And the games are also so fast that what's the scenario where you're actually tapping 3 lands and this is more powerful to do for 3 mana than just about anything else you could be doing?
Yeah, this card's a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I know it doesn't look like it, maybe. Like draw 2, discard 2 doesn't feel like a lot, but it's free. So
or less than free.
Yeah.
And it's
that's
just,
also true.
like we know that Faithless Looting, if you are even trying a little bit with synergies based on playing cards, drawing cards, discarding cards, whatever, that yes, it's card disadvantage, but no, not really.
Yep.
And when that becomes 0 mana and therefore or sometimes even making mana and is therefore really facilitating Storm stuff as well in a way that Faithless Looting is not really that good at. Yeah. It's
Yeah. It's
make
just
your
too
things
much.
cost mana.
Yeah.
Just put a mana cost on it. And if someone wants to play with Land War Elves and they get it ahead of schedule, that's okay. Game
Sure.
can handle a lot of that sort of thing.
Sure.
But I could knock it off with the zeros.
Last one here is Cloud of Fairies. It was banned in Pauper in June 2016. There you go. We got a bunch of notable cards to talk about, so let's do this pretty quickly here. We got white cards. I just listed a bunch of cards that are good from this set that might have a story involved. Erase. It's just a good removal spell.
Cool. Good. Workmanlike. You can put it in any set you want to, and it'll do what it says.
Karmic Guide.
Pretty intense. One of the Echo designs I'm not very fond of in this set. Relatively speaking, it might be dead last in my rankings.
Okay.
Just like, this is really not about paying Echo at all.
Yeah, you're almost never paying Echo.
To whatever extent the card has power, it's not really about next turn.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. Mother of Runes, personal favorite of mine. People think they know. They don't know.
This card is so messed up, and the only reason that it seemed even remotely defensible at the time was because it's not good against cards like Memory Jar and Tinker.
Yeah.
Card is so messed up.
I don't know how many times this conversation comes up, but like Giver of Runes exist in like various versions of that style card. And it's like Giver of Runes is fine, but the ability to protect oneself.
Yeah,
it's outrageous. Mother of Runes could never be printed in Standard.
But that's the example of the right way to do it.
Put Mother of Runes in Foundations.
No, it would just get banned.
Yeah,
it's just way, way too much. But Giver of Runes, that's exactly the type of thing that we're talking about. It's like, oh, Mother of Runes, that card's busted. I know that card's busted. And you're giving me an extra point of toughness, and it can give pro artifact.
Mm-hmm. Pro colorless,
sorry. And sometimes it is actually as good as it looks. it has those moments.
Yeah.
But what is it solving? Well, it protecting itself is just too intense. It's too hard to break it up. And it means that just generally attacking and blocking against this card is too hard.
Yeah.
And it's too difficult to kill. That's the good way of doing Transmute Artifact Tinker.
Yes. That's the right progression.
Right. We're giving
Mother
you
Runes comes first, Giver Runes comes second.
I know you know this, and I know you know this is good. How about this card that really never showed up because it's too constraining, and then we're just how about just go get anything?
just Tinker's fine. Blue, we have Cloud of Fairies.
Mm-hmm.
Really good in Pauper, combo enabler, cycles.
Yeah,
for some reason.
Just in case it's not killing your opponent that turn, you need to do something else.
You need another card.
Yeah,
it's weird to put cycling on there, in my opinion.
No, so there's a tactile sensation with this card
it's
where it's either like I tap 2 and then I untap 2, or I tap 2 and then I draw something. There is like something like physically enjoyable about playing with that card. It's got kind of a rhythm to it that is fun.
Okay.
It's also just busted and why put cycling on it?
Yeah.
Like
how
just
about that?
let it be bad some amount of the time.
Yeah, how about that? That's why I don't think cycling should be on it.
No, no. Well, my critique is different. You should not make this card ever in the first place. This is just about promoting horseshit. But if you are going to do that, I think that cycling is actually kind of a fun thing to play, to put on it just because of the rhythm.
Okay. Delusions of Mediocrity.
Sweet card.
Okay.
Actually kind of had some purpose.
Okay.
Oddly enough.
Okay.
Because back then, remember, first of all, the beatdown decks were a lot slower.
True.
And red and black just could not do anything about an enchantment. So if you were in the market to, pay 4 mana and gain 10 life against a certain deck, and Magic had control decks that played Gerard's Wisdom back in the day,
yep, that
was useful. Also, not to spoil too much, was good with Yawgmoth's Bargain.
That's true.
Because that's 10 more. That's 10 of those.
That's 10 more cards.
That's 10 more cards.
How about that?
Eventually, the deck got so powerful that even Delusions didn't make the cut.
Oh.
But there was a window where that was...
I'm excited to talk about that when we get to it. What was the white card that you sacrificed?
Renounce.
Yeah.
Renounce.
Yeah.
That's what really put it over.
We'll talk about that next episode, probably.
An innocent enough looking card.
Frantic Search. We don't need to talk about that anymore.
Good job.
Miscalculation.
Okay, sure. I mean, I think this card is weaker than Mana Leak and more fun. Nice design.
I agree.
Yeah.
Kind of splits the difference.
Right, exactly. And it's also this nice, well, I know the spot where it's not good. Mm-hmm. The game's progressed to a point, but it's not for sure, because maybe you'll tap out for something big. I don't know. So there's not pressure on me to cycle it like some of the other designs where it's, if I got a SWAT in my hand and I know you're not going to cooperate, I just need something else. I can. Miscalculation has a little bit more, I didn't cast it this turn, but also I'm not going to cycle it just yet.
Yeah, I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait a little bit.
A cool design.
Opportunity. A personal favorite Cunning Wish target. Pretty for me.
Pretty weird to do set after Stroke of Genius, but whatever. Who cares?
Okay.
It's like it's better precisely at 6 mana.
Yeah. Yes, because Stroke you draw 3.
Yeah, but that 4. Actually did end up coming up in Constructed because there was a standard deck, shout out Patrick Johnson, called Accelerated Blue.
Yeah, I remember.
That was like blue control with Grim Monolith.
Yep.
And you had Morphling or Palinchron, whatever, just like big mana threats. And so you would play Monolith to get things out ahead of schedule. On the turns where you're just holding up counterspells and your opponent didn't do anything, you could use your mana to untap the Monolith, and you just kind of like haymakered your opponent on every other turn.
Sure. And
could defend yourself on some of the other turns.
Okay.
And so turn 2 Monolith, turn 3 Opportunity was a core part of that deck.
Okay.
Where it's like, I don't really need a stroke for 7. Like 4 cards is plenty.
Yeah.
And just creating as much leverage as possible off the Monolith was actually the thing to be doing.
Okay.
But it's still kind of weird to do the set after.
Yeah, fair enough. Next up, Palinchron talked about it. Raven Familiar.
Yeah, one that you know a lot about.
My Alurin days.
Mm-hmm.
Cast this one quite a bit, and then return to a Cavern Harpy, and then cast it again. Just going off, just digging through the deck to find parasitic Strix to kill my opponent. I
And
always
also, you could also just cast that thing if you weren't rolled up.
oh yeah, just turn 3. Just cast Raven Familiar. Maybe pay Echo. Maybe don't.
Yeah.
Probably won't. But yeah, just looking for a little something.
I'll block whatever.
Yeah, I'm trying to find my Alluring here, people. Yeah, so I always liked Raven Familiar.
You got to chase the Mind Sculptor over there. I'm gonna be chipping away.
Ah. All right, it's not dead yet. It's not dead yet, but we're trying. Rebuild, Cunning Wish target. That's one of the things I like about this set. I just had a bunch of Cunning Wish targets from this set.
Mm-hmm.
Rebuild was they pick up all their artifacts. Yeah, return our artifacts to owner's hand, and then it cycles when it's not useful. Fun. Snap talked about it. Tinker talked about it plenty.
Great job.
Yeah, black.
Nothing to see here.
We got Bone Shredder.
Cool.
Cool card. Also played that in Alluring.
Yeah.
Good again with Cavern Harpy, or when it's free.
Oh, and that's also just a thing that we got some hate bear over there. Just take that out.
Get that out of here. Get that out of here. And then you chump block, and then you don't pay Echo, and you keep it moving. Engineered Plague.
Mm-hmm.
Got ourselves a hater in the house. Played a lot of goblins in my day. Not a fun card to play against.
Really wrong place, wrong time. It's like at this point it's barely plausible to play with creatures at all.
Yeah.
To the extent that you can play with creatures, it's basically tribal stuff that's about flooding the battlefield with a bunch of elves or goblins. And then you make this. Come on. Don't need to do this.
I am glad that this isn't really much of a thing anymore. It's not a fun experience for somebody playing a goblin or elf deck, and then this happens. It's like, cool, I just don't get to play anymore.
Yeah,
it's just not fun.
So at the beginning of the show, we talked about defense grid, and you can argue whether or not you're supposed to do defense grid, but you can say at least one argument in its favor. It's going after the right people. If you're just playing with a lot of interaction, you're playing with a lot of counter spells, that card's going to mess you up. And that's not a person. That's a person that's worth taking a little bit of the piss out of.
Yeah.
So it's just their elf deck that's bad, which they were at this time. Have you? I'm sure you have. The second Engineer Plague.
No, it's
like,
over.
come on.
No, it's over. It's
come
over.
on.
Like the first one, when someone cast it against me playing goblins, I could kind of work through it.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't fun to try, but like you could work through it with Goblin Ringleader, and Pile Driver is just an 0-1 now. And like you could get creative and find ways to win. The second one, it's like, okay, cool, really fun.
Yeah,
this is really fun.
Just let me play with my terrible goblins.
Yeah, and they are bad. They're all bad.
You could beat me with any 3-mana black card at the time.
Yeah,
you could just be playing. 4 months later, you could just be Dark Ritual and Yawgmoth's Welling. You don't have to do this to me.
Yeah, just leave me alone.
Also, go with Dark Ritual.
True, that's just math. No Mercy.
Whew, this is a lot limited. It was actually, this card is so busted in low power settings that people like played it in constructed, erroneously assuming that their opponent would ever attack with a creature.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's not a thing that's happening.
Yeah, this to me is very close to worship in that I think the average standard format could probably be balanced around it.
Okay.
But this is not a good thing to balance the format.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. Phyrexian Plague Lord. Do you know the story with Sol Malka and Rock and his millions and everything? Yeah. Okay. Do you have a way of retelling it?
Well, so my understanding historically.
Also, I will say, sorry to cut you off, Saul, since I know you watch our show, if you want to post in the Patreon or the YouTube comments about this, by all means.
So I'm going to leave it to Saul because he clarified this on Twitter, I think, a few years ago. My understanding, and I think a lot of people's understanding is, Saul Malka loves green-black decks.
Yep.
Loves professional wrestling.
Both those things are true.
And so, The Rock and his millions, but people thought the Plague Lord, that's The Rock.
Yep.
And Deranged Hermit, that's The Rock's millions. Right?
Yeah.
And they're both, 5 mana, green, black value cards. They play well together. You can kind of see where this is going. I believe Saul said that it was actually Diabolic Servitude was the thing and not either Plague Lord or Hermit. Well, I'll leave it to Saul. I'm sure he'll address this in the comments. Would very much appreciate it. But I think the last time I saw him clarify it, it was a Diabolic Servitude call out and not one of those two cards.
All right, red Avalanche Riders. Awesome card.
Cool, fine.
Gia2 Slinger. You cast that a decent amount?
No, not really. It's just Magic was not balanced around this sort of thing being good. It was a limited superstar.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
of course. Goblin Welder. Busted.
Just, mana. Who needs it?
You know, as much as we've talked about various blue cards and artifacts and everything, yeah, this card's just in here too. Just happens to be in here.
Also good with Tinker.
Yeah, good call. And then Rack and Ruin. That'll show those artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
At least it gave red something resembling a fighting chance.
I played this in my standard sideboard from time to time.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had to.
Yeah. It's also a really fun card to cast because you get to say, or at least I did at the time, that's racked, that's ruined.
That is a thing that you would do.
Really fun.
Green, we got Crop Rotation, which we talked about. Deranged Hermit. People like Swirls. Just a fun card. Just straight up. And they've made various different types of versions of this card, but Deranged Hermit's the OG. I think it's a fun card. It also passes the Echo test.
In so many different ways.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of the value obviously distributed among the tokens, but the Hermit itself is not useless.
Yep.
This is pumping.
Yep.
So there's like a cool little sub game of, well, how much this is worth. If I pay Echo and it dies, how bad is that for me? Really great Echo design. Contrast this to anything in Saga.
Yeah, it's not even close.
It's not even close. These designs are way better.
Might of Oaks, a fun casual card. +7/+7's a lot. And it has good artwork.
So much fun.
Yeah.
This was, I believe, early on in the set's shelf life at the only game in town. This was one of the more expensive foil rares in the set.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Actually, you know what? Pardon me.
They've reprinted it too many times, and I think it's just too bad now. I wouldn't be surprised if all the foils from Legacy have some collector value because it's just the first foil set. But
all right, yeah, you're right. I forgot they reprinted it so much.
Yeah, this one is really this is like the best of what you can do when you're in this headspace of just, well, all bets are off. Just make everything cost everything. Just what if we made super big giant growth? And it's like, well, that isn't necessarily better than giant growth because efficiency matters.
Yep.
But also, this does have moments of being absurd.
Yeah, +7/+7's a ton.
Ranker? Are you kidding me? They're dead. They blocked and they're still dead. Weatherseed Tree Folk?
Yeah. They're super dead. Yeah, it doesn't cost much, but it is one of my favorite cards.
And remember, your Green Beat deck guy is Cradle, so you actually were in the market to maybe play a little bit more expensive and chunkier than how we sort of think of Green Bean decks nowadays, which is just all about cheap.
Yep. Multani, Morrow Sorcerer, just big.
Really fun, really cool. Sucks.
Yeah,
like power level wise.
Yeah, not very good.
Like was we've been over this, but great design.
Rancor we talked about, Simian Grunts we talked about, Weathersea Tree Folk. It's gonna win an award later in the show for me. So I'll tell you that.
It's awesome.
It's also just a cool card.
Really fun.
Artifact, we talked about Defense Grid already. Grim Monolith, we've talked about. Memory Jar, LOL. Quicksilver Amulet is the artifact version of Elvish Piper.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And then Ring of Gix.
Although this came first.
That's right.
Because Piper's in Destiny.
Yep, that's right. And then Ring of Gix, it's gonna win an award later, so we'll talk about it then. And then last are just the lands, which we've talked about the creature lands there. So I think we've covered most of the notables, which is a thing that folks like when we do. So hopefully we've appeased you in doing so. So now we take a short break and we come back. Of course, it's time to dole out the awards here in Urza's Legacy. See you soon. All right, everybody. It's time for your favorite part of the show. It's certainly our favorite part of the show. It's everybody's favorite part of the show. It's the award show here for Urza's Legacy. And we're going to start, as we always do, with the Oko Thief of Crowns Award for Best Card in the Set. For me, it is Memory Jar. It is not particularly close. However, my partner in crime here has a different answer.
Tinker.
Yeah.
I think either one of these answers is fine.
Yeah.
I think Tinker is off by more mana.
Okay.
And that is compounded by the fact that it's much cheaper in the first place.
So ignoring Alpha.
Yeah.
Right. That has the power and blah, blah, blah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The early sets. Is this the best 1/2 in the history of the show? Just insofar as like my answer is Jar, your answer is Tinker. Obviously we could have the same answers, but like, is this like the best 1/2 for just best card in the set? I know I'm putting you on the spot here a little. I just thought
I suspect this is weaker than Academy Cradle.
Okay.
If you're talking about non-lands, or it is sort of how far back are you want to go and whatever. Like, how do these two stack up against Strip Mine Workshop?
Oh.
But
Yeah.
Once we get past like the real ancient times, like the literal, they have no idea what's going on power level wise.
Yeah, sure.
This is in contention for sure.
Okay. Our saga answer for Oko Thief of Crowns, we both had to learn Academy.
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't even say Cradle.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Academy Cradle is a pretty big, pretty robust one too.
Yeah, that's not bad. Let's go to the Carnival of Souls Award for worst card in this set. I'm going to get mine out of the way so you can have fun with yours. I went with Brink of Madness.
Mm-hmm.
This is a black card. I'm trying to remember what it does. Okay, so this is 2BB enchantment. During your upkeep, if you have no cards in hand, sacrifice Brink of Madness and target opponent discards his or her hand. Okay, that card sucks.
Yeah, and
it's
it's also a rare in the previous set was Persecute, which is also just they discard their hand.
Sure. Yeah, that card just not good. Do you remember your answer?
I believe Walking Sponge.
That's right. This sponge was made for walking.
I was thinking about giving it to Sluggishness, but then it occurred to me there could be theoretically some sort of combo application with bouncing thing, like just reducing cost and I can cast this a bunch of times sort of stuff.
Okay, fine.
Not just basically a blank piece of cardboard that says if the creature dies,
That's fine.
Whatever.
That's fine.
But setting it, so I think it's Walking Sponge, which really hard for that one to.
That creature loses flying, first strike, or trample. Thanks.
Yeah.
It's an uncommon, by the way.
Well, you don't want too many of them. And it is also weird as hell.
I want to know who worked on that card.
No, I actually, it makes it does give me some solace when we're going through these sets that are just completely busted. Just absolutely no restraint shown at any point by anyone.
Yeah.
But there's just a handful of charming and bad cards. It's like someone still had their eye on the ball.
Sure.
In spite of, the house is burning down all around you.
It's a dog with a coffee cup.
But someone still remembered to, turn off the air conditioning before they left the house.
That's good.
That's a nice thing.
That's good. The Doomblade Award for best non-rare in the set. All right, look. The easy answer here is Tinker. Okay. That's the easy answer. That's not the answer I'm going to give. We acknowledge that the answer is Tinker, okay? All of you watching at home, we all agree it's Tinker. Okay,
Yeah,
with that out of the way, my answer is Mother of Runes because it's one of my favorite cards ever. So that's what I'm picking.
Mother of Runes is still, it's more powerful than my answer. I still want to adhere to what I perceive to be the spirit of the war, which is, could you possibly print this at uncommon or at all?
Sure.
Today?
Sure.
And in that spirit, I'm going with Treetop Village.
Okay.
Workmanlike, good role player. You put it in standard, people will play it, wouldn't cause any problems.
We see you in the comments. We see you, Tinker. We see you, Frantic Search. We see you.
Yeah.
We hear you.
Yeah, I'm not choosing rares and mythics or just unprintable cards that happen to be at uncommon in this set.
Yes. Okay. With that out of the way, the Oboro Palace in the Clouds Award for fun of one of in the set. My answer is Rebuild because I used a Cunning Wish for it. There you go. Your answer.
Raven Familiar. There are people in my local shop who just had one in their decks just to mess around with.
It's a nice little card to have.
It's a nice little card.
Yeah.
You snap it back. You want to with the Echo on the stack, or after you've paid Echo, and then you do it again.
Edward P. Beard.
Yeah,
drew that one.
Yeah, just a fun little card. You put it in your deck, and I promise you'll have a good time, even if you're not doing the combo thing.
Extremely reprintable. I will say that, even though it wouldn't be good by today's standards.
No.
Mystic Confluence Award for best vintage cube card in the set. It's not a card I ever draft, but my selection is Grim Monolith. It's too do-nothing-y for me personally.
My answer is Tinker. Tinker is also very, in terms of vintage cube cards, and this is probably an indictment on me, but you know how everyone has a handful of cards where it's like every time I have it, it sucks. Every time my opponent has it, it's completely off the wall.
Yeah, Library of Alexandria. For me.
Oh, that's the opposite for me.
Okay.
Every time I have library, it's in my opening hand, and it's just as smooth as butter, just the whole time.
No, not for
I
me.
just have an emblem that says you draw 2 cards a turn.
Yeah, must be nice.
And then my opponent's just like, yeah, turn 4.
Yeah.
Or they mulligan and play it.
Yeah,
That Tinker's one of those for me.
Okay.
I get clowned by Tinker constantly, and every time I have it, I'm like, Mirror Battlesphere again.
Not good enough, as always. But
look, man, I tried.
Yeah.
I promise you, if there were better artifacts in the back,
no, it's the blight.
You would have seen it.
The blight steel's in my hand. Okay. There you go. That's all it is. Smothering Tithe Award for best commander card in this set. Your answer?
Memory Jar.
Cool.
Multiplayer fun.
That's a good use of Memory Jar. My answer, due to EDH Rec, is Frantic Search.
Oh yeah, of course. Great job, everyone. Really fun casual format.
I'm not convinced that that's what it should be.
Wow.
That's how I do the award.
Yeah, what's fun about Commander is that it's just a really cool place to express yourself creatively. just sitting around, just manipulating material.
Just moving cards around. That's
just
all we're
getting
doing.
Dorito dust over over all my cards.
Brutal. I have the Pack Rat Award for best limited card in the set. Your answer?
I'm going to go with No Mercy.
Hard to pass up on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good answer. Because the creatures were so low power.
So bad.
Yeah. They're not like they are today where all of them have 3 or 4 power.
You could literally play like No Mercy in a 45 card deck.
That'd just be too much.
Right. Because you still will play stuff and block and kill things periodically.
Sure.
Getting 20 across in that format through that card, good luck.
All right. So I have 2 answers for this one. I'm kind of breaking the rules I created for the show. One is Mother of Runes. Seems like it'd be really good. If they don't kill it right away, it protects everything, lets you attack, all that other stuff, right? Mm-hmm. The other one, I have Weatherseed Treefolk because it doesn't die.
Yeah.
And it's big, so it just seems like it would be hell to work through.
Not the easiest thing to cast.
Yeah,
but
it's 3 green?
Green,
yeah,
2.
And then 2, yeah.
But super good.
Okay. Yeah. The correct answer is probably Mother of Runes, though, if I had to guess. But I wanted to give Weatherseed Treefolk a quick little shout out.
Mother of Runes is not a bad choice. It's certainly very high on the list. I think I would take No Mercy over it, but
okay.
Mother of Runes is totally justifiable.
We have the Circle Protection Award for best hoser in the set. My selection is Engineered Plague. Super fun, super cool. Not at all. Your selection. Oh, yes. Right.
So this card is considerably weaker than Engineered Plague and a couple of the other hosers in the set. But I do want to talk a little bit about King Crab.
Yes, please.
What the hell is this? If you just do this in draft, it's Vasara meets you don't get a draw step.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And because it requires mana and activate, your opponent just never even attacks with it. It's never in combat. It's just on the shore the whole time, patrolling the coastline for any stray green creatures that might show.
Go ahead, play one.
Go ahead and play one.
How many green creatures do you think are this set? Can't be very many.
So let me think. So the set was, you said 144.
Yeah.
Minus lands 139, and then an artifact set. I'll go with, my guess in the dark is 22.
Green cards or green creatures?
Oh, green cards.
Okay, green cards. Your guess is 22.
And then I'll go with 12 of them are creatures.
All right, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Oh, so there's 24.
Pretty close.
And then green creatures, what's your guess?
I said 12.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 14.
Okay.
Not bad. Not bad.
Pretty close.
Yeah, and there's only one of them that you wouldn't want to put back on top. One could argue, which is Deranged Hermit.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they can power through it with a Multaney's Acolyte.
Yeah. Yeah. The drawing of cards. Yes.
It's not a whole lot to do.
Yeah,
this card is just why on earth?
I think the play experience would be hilarious. Obviously not fun, but hilarious.
Oh, it is something that I wish, there's, I'm trying to remember the card. Spinal Villain. Red, it's in Legends. Red 2, 1/2.
Okay.
Tap, destroy target blue creature. Now, there have been legacy tournaments where I've had that in my sideboard. It's like Merfolk's popular. I'm just going to do this.
Okay.
And it's not the best card I can play, but it's just too funny.
Oh, this is a card that exists.
I really hope that someone one day has a King Crab in their show and tell sideboard. And it's just because you can also hard cast it too. And then just
remove it to Force of Will.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Right.
Really nice. Really nice card.
Yeah. Just that card is really doesn't get talked about enough because of course you can never cast it in any sort of competitive setting.
Yeah,
but it's just why do you need to do this to anyone? Anywhere at any time?
The Char Rumbler Award for the weirdest card in the set. My answer is Thran Lens, making things colorless. Take that, King Crab.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can't do that. Can't do anything to me now. Your answer, the 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I got the 2 Viashinos in here.
This is Viashino Cutthroat and Viashino Sand Scout.
So the Sandstalker made its debut in Visions.
Yeah, that's the 3-mana 4/2.
Right. And that card is fun and appealing, and it's tapping into the ball lightning experience, whatever. There was a brief moment in time where that card actually had a considerable constructed role.
Yeah.
Because you could keep up the pressure against Oath of Druids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there were red decks out there that were just like, yeah, I play with Mog Fanatic, Ball Lightning, Viashino, Sandstalker.
Yep.
And so these cards are all okay on their own for what I'm doing, but really what's going on here is I completely blank Oath of Druids.
See, that's why Magic is awesome.
Yeah.
Because that sort of thing. It's
Right.
weird, but like it's effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could play with, Fire Slinger because like I can have it shoot itself if Oath comes up.
Yep.
So there's
Okay.
all these cards that have this sort of context.
Okay.
But a little goes a long way. You really can't build a deck that's nothing of these things.
Sure.
And Magic was clearly feeling itself of like, oh, this card that's like, this is ostensibly a drawback. Oh, it actually lines up the right way against one of the best cards in the format.
Mhm.
What if we kept doing it? And it's like, well, you can't play with 12 of these. The second copy gets pretty bad.
That's true.
But it's a weird pair. I also think it's weird too, because Sandstalker was uncommon. Do the rare one. Give me a 4-mana 6/4.
Sure.
If you're gonna do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Juice it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make it something different. you
Okay.
know?
Yeah, because the Cutthroat is a 4-mana 5/3.
Yeah. So they go 2/1, 4/2, 5/3.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
Okay.
give me the big O.
Okay. We have a new award to unveil here really quickly. It's the Memory Jar Award for What the Heck Were They Thinking card in the set. My answer is Memory Jar, and Patrick's answer is
Tanker.
there you
come
go.
on.
Yeah.
At least Memory Jar was someone's new idea.
Someone.
And
Hey, you said it.
you have an idea, you make an omelet, you're gonna break a few eggs, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Tinker is like they were not trying to make an omelet.
I don't even know if the lights in the kitchen were on there.
Right, yeah.
That just came out the door.
Yeah.
It's fine. Blank Award for best card name of the set. Your answer?
Delusions of Mediocrity.
There's a lot of good card names in the set.
There are.
Fair. My answer is Bone Shredder, which I think is an awesome card name for a set. Awesome card name in a set, excuse me. We have the John Avon Award for best land artwork in the set. Your answer?
Fairy Conclave.
All 5 of these are great for what it's worth. Treetop Village is near and dear to my heart, so it is my answer. And I've activated that card quite a few times in my life, so an easy selection for me. And if you've been with us for the entire shelf life of this show, most of the time for the Aurelius Fury Award and the Tarmogoyf Award, we have not been able to answer. But we are working ourselves in the territory where we can. So the Aurelius Fury Award for most overhyped card during preview season, we have the same answer. Take it away.
Ring of Gix. Foil Ring of Gix at the pre-release, you trade that for a Mox. Not kidding. It's like I think it might have been the first $100 card at a pre-release.
It's Icy Manipulator, except it's not at all.
Way worse than a card you couldn't play anyway.
Yeah. This is beautiful. This is whenever new cards come out and folks report analyzing them, which has been happening over the 30 years plus of Magic's history. This is just a shining example. It looks like the same card. It's not the same card at all.
It's not the same card at all. And also something that is good about Icy that is not true of a lot of 4-mana cards. The second and third copy are also really good. If your opponent can't answer the first one, the second and third copy are also going to be really good.
Yeah.
In some ways, they actually scale.
Yeah.
Second Ring of Gix, you're really feeling the credit card debt.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
When am I going to be able to play this thing?
Yeah.
It takes a long time.
Yeah. You can't just play them back to back to back like you could with Icy's, right?
And also some of what's good about, or I don't know about good, but Echo is something that is theoretically better on a shorter timeline in terms of how long of a game are you trying to play.
Okay.
Because you're trying to do something bursty.
Yeah.
So defensive Echo cards also are just kind of what are we doing here?
Yeah, not great. Not great. No, that makes sense. We're moving on to the Timergraph Award for most underhyped card during preview season. My answer is crop rotation. I don't think this is the best answer I've ever given because crop rotation is much better now in 2024 than it probably was back in 1999 because, as Patrick mentioned earlier in the show, there weren't that many lands to work with, whereas now Magic is incredibly vast, so there's almost a land that can solve almost any problem now that you can crop rotation for. So I acknowledge that I don't have the best answer, and also I wasn't around during that time. Your answer.
Grim Monolith. People were so desensitized because you have all this artifact mana in Saga.
Yeah.
Voltaic, like Academy. And it's at some point it gets drowned out. Like, is this better than, whatever other busted ones I could be playing with? Is this more powerful than Lotus Petal, which is still legal in Saren at the time, or Mox Diamond?
Sure.
And it's like, you just play with all of them.
Yeah, sure.
They're all, you don't have to pick.
Yeah.
Just play with all.
It'll be fine. You can tinker one of them away.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be totally fine. What do people tinker for?
Well,
like Phyrexian Colossus?
Depends what we're talking about. If you want to go to the World Championships that Finkel won, which was Urza block, Mask block.
Okay.
So you tinker on turn 1, right? You can go get a Phyrexian Dreadnought and just kill someone. You can go get a Mistress Helix. It's just a lock.
Yeah, because you just tap all their lands.
Yeah, they just never have mana on their main phase for the rest of the game.
Okay.
Once you get further down the line into, or Phyrexian not Colossus, Processor.
Yeah, so I'm looking at Finkel's Tinker.
Ooh, Crumbling Sanctuary. That's another one.
So he has Colossus, Metalworker. Jeez, I forgot what Metalworker. That's next set. Masticore, Crumbling Sanctuary, Helix, Processor. Okay, sure. What are we doing? What are we doing here with this?
Now,
stuff?
once you get to mirror it in that extended Pro Tour, then you start talking about things like Meteor Incubator and Phyrexian Bosch, Iron Giant. Just the array is different.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but at this point, you have basically the busted offerings from Saga, and then there's some stuff on the edges in Mercadian Mask, like Crumbling Sanctuary. Just different single card soft locks against whatever your opponent was doing.
This is ridiculous. Okay, anyway, I digress. We've done our awards, which means we have, to one certain person out there, one thing left to do. All right, everybody, it's time to close this show down. But before we do, you need to hear about my Magic the Gathering apparel store, Coalesce Apparel and Design.
You can head over to coalesceapparel.shop, the #1 store for Magic the Gathering inspired apparel, to check out their selection of shirts, hoodies, stickers, playmats, and a whole bunch more, including their brand new Devoid collection to celebrate Modern Horizons 3 and Resleevables merchandise meant for the loyalist of Jackal Pups. When checking out, be sure to use gift code Resleevables to get 10% off your entire order. Coalesce Apparel and Design, nobody made what they wanted, so they made it themselves.
Alrighty, partner. What card won the set and why?
It's not the most iconic thing, but I do want to give it to Treetop Village.
Okay.
It's like, this is an oasis in a desert of just 0 mana turn 1 kills.
Sure.
I think the story is really good. I think the way that it balances is great. And it's inspired like dozens of beloved designs. And given the sensibilities of the time, we're coming off a set in Urza Saga where there's a cycle of lands. What does it do? Make 10 mana, make 10 mana, make 10 mana, make 2 mana, ping your opponent.
And Shiving Gorge.
Even if Shiving Gorge is bad in terms of power level, it's also, what it shares in common with the other 4? Not interactive. It's just a thing that's happening, right? These are very interactive cards, for and against. And you can play Treetop Village and Rancor. It's like a thing people did. And it's so hard to call out the cards that have the set mechanics on them because the cycling designs are pretty soulless. And the Echo design, the Echo designs rather, I think they're improved, but they are basically just a sea of FTKs and cantrip guys.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of ETBs.
Yeah. Treetop Village is new and awesome and balanced around the right stuff.
Okay.
And so I want to give it some praise, even though it's kind of outside the architecture of the set.
My selection is Memory Jar, because I don't think you can talk about this set without talking about Memory Jar. It's not fun. It's not cool. But if we're talking about this time period with busted artifacts and turn 1 or 2 or 3 kills or whatever, and emergency bannings, which isn't a thing that we ever see nowadays, even though some people wish that we did, this checks all those boxes of just like, what were we doing during this time period, right? It's Magic, I don't want to say at its worst, but it's most it's Magic at its most just like, who cares, basically. Like, we'll just make anything.
It is Magic made exactly for the people who make Magic.
Sure.
There's no consideration of, what if there's a player out there that really likes Shivan Dragon? What if we tried to make a Shivan Dragon that was good enough to play? And or what if we tried to construct our format in such a way that something like Shivan Dragon was plausible to play?
Yeah.
No, that player doesn't exist. And if they exist, they're done.
Yeah.
Tinker for Memory Jar.
Yeah, you're dead.
It's just like a math puzzle.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just a bunch of numbers moving around and mulliganing ideally to find like hands that work, even though I don't know exactly the mulligan rules then. But I think it's impossible to talk about this set without talking about Memory Jar, which is funny because when you think about this set, I wonder how many people who are like newer to the game even know much about Memory Jar's history, which is part of the reason we do this show. But like, yeah, this card was completely outrageous. And again, they had to emergency ban it because the professional players or the great players of the time were just like, yo, we tested this and this is just, what, are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
It just takes everything from Saga and just ramps it up to like a 30.
It's not like it involved any new cards getting played or discovered.
Yeah.
It's like, we already know stuff like this is way too good, and here's a 14 out of 10 version of that.
And then you print it away to directly tutor for it too.
Mm-hmm.
So besides that, everything's fine. As far as grades for the set are concerned, I am giving this set a 6. I'm trying to figure out why, but I think the reason why is because it has positive memories for me. Yes, Jar's not okay. Yes, Tinker's not okay. Yes, the blue free spells, the ones that they made, the 4 of them. It's like, what are we doing? They did improve on that. Mm-hmm. They had the regular ones and they made these ones way better. And they didn't do much to make cycling better, but that's okay. When I was young, I was a big Echo mark. So Echo being better and, updated, cool. I think the flavor of the set is cool. But like, if you look at this set through a competitive lens, there are so many busted competitive cards. But if this is what they wanted Magic to be at the time, whether it's a good thing or not, if we're just looking through the lens of if this is what you wanted it to look like, they did succeed in their goal. As we get to mass block in future sets, they obviously have to power things down and revisit what they want Magic to be. But if your goal is to make a set that is on par with Urza's Saga and just like, hey, we're just going to let some powerful shit happen and we'll let the chips fall where they may, you did it.
I give Urza's Legacy a 7.
Okay.
Marked improvement over Urza's Saga.
Okay.
Even though they share many of the same sins.
Okay.
So I'll give some shout outs. First set with foils.
Huge. Yeah, that's a huge win. Huge win.
The creature lands.
Huge
incredible win. And, provided Magic with a lot of design space. The Echo execution. And, Echo is still flawed, but in terms of why is this not good and let's try to improve it, very thoughtful execution, in my opinion.
Okay.
And even though the power level is still off in a lot of places, they are moving some things in a good direction with regards to creatures. This didn't even occur to me when we did Saga, but I was looking at the spoiler after the fact. So it was easy to look at Tolarian Academy, Gaia's Cradle, and, all those historic outlier busted cards.
Yeah.
And go, they just didn't know any better. And they didn't.
Yeah, sure.
There's 2 white rares in that set that are worse than Sarah Angel.
In Saga?
Yes.
Okay.
Herald of Sarah.
Which is worse. It has Echo.
3/4 Echo.
Yep.
4.
Okay.
And Opal Archangel. It's 6 mana and becomes a 5/5 if they play something.
Okay. I'm going to look this up really quick, but keep going. You see me.
There
you go.
Or maybe it's a 4/4. I don't know. But there's 2 rares that are worse
Okay.
than Sarah Angel. And that just delta between, I think it's okay to make 10 mana on turn 1 and Sarah Angel is too good. Juggernaut is too good. It's real. How far off you are in those worlds is, it basically cannot be repaired.
Sure.
You're fundamentally viewing the game through a different lens than you should be.
Okay.
If those are your two 10 poles.
Okay.
Academy's okay. Sarah Angel's not. It's like, what are we talking? What could we possibly be doing here?
Okay. No, this makes sense.
And something that I do appreciate about Legacy is the set is littered. It doesn't have enough, and they're not quite good enough, and there's still all the problems with 0 mana stuff going on. Frantic Search, Tinkers in the set, whatever. Phyrexian Plague Lord, Weatherseed Tree Folk, Deranged Hermit. We're talking about some creatures that are mid-rangey and really appealing and plausible to play. Like, could you imagine Phyrexian Plague Lord in Urza's Saga? Just like, here's the thing, it does some stuff, the rate's pretty good.
Yeah, no.
The Saga is actually extremely underpowered with that kind of card.
Yeah.
It's all stuff like, Argothian Worm and just things that are tricking you. Just like, can you give me a simple...
It's like the perfect example.
Can you give me a simple, straightforward card that just works? That does this thing that it says it does, and it's at least not embarrassing to play, even though you probably shouldn't be playing with 5 mana creatures if you're trying to win.
Yeah.
This is a huge step in the right direction, and for it to come on the heels of a set that is abominable with regards to that, I think is really good. They didn't go far enough, and they're still paying off all this debt from all the artifact mana and whatever. But seeing some designs in here, I'm like, oh, that's like an appealing, straightforward creature that isn't horrendous. There's a few. And for the standards at this time, that is awesome.
That's true. And those cards, the aforementioned Hermit, Weather Sea Tree Folk, Phyrexian Plague Lord, they're also just like fun to play with.
They're fun cards.
They're fun to play with, and they're fun to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's worth a lot.
It's really great.
Yeah.
Those designs are like way ahead of their time.
Yeah.
And to do it 4 months after Endless Worm and Argothian Worm, and I'm trying to even think of the other ones. There's so many just like unappealing. V-Build at rare.
Oh, what a guy. What a guy V-Build is. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
What a guy.
Yeah. There's actually some like stuff in here that's,
imaginary
well designed.
A Morphling. Morphling's fun. Oh, these are good points. Let's take a look at our scoreboard, everybody. I know my editor, John's going to be proud of me because I actually remembered to mention the scoreboard this time around. So you can see we've given grades to various other sets, including Ice Age and Chronicles and 5th Edition and Weatherlight and the aforementioned Urza Saga, which I gave a 7, you gave a 3, and now Urza's Legacy, which I gave a 6, and you gave a 7. So that's the scoreboard. Let's talk about, as we wrap this show up and close her down, our sponsorship calls outs. First and foremost, you can subscribe to this show on YouTube, rate, review, subscribe. That's the thing that people do. Over at youtube.com/theresleevables, where you can find our most recent episode of The Resleevables, in which we've reviewed Urza's Saga. So if you want to watch this entire block, because Destiny's coming up soon, and you just watch Urza's Legacy, you can also find our most recent episode of The Resleevables Tournament Edition, Pro Tour Atlanta 1996 right now. And of course, you can find snippets of our Unsleeved podcast, where Patrick and I talk about anything and everything, and you find folks send us reader questions, and we happily answer them. And lastly, you can watch our Crack-A-Back videos on our YouTube page, which we're going to talk about here in just a moment. But first, let's talk about where you can subscribe and get access to things earlier than normal. That'll be our Patreon at patreon.com/theresleevables, where you get early access to both the Resleevables and the Resleevables Tournament Edition. You get complete access to the Unsleeved podcast, which is our Patreon exclusive podcast, snippets on YouTube, full episodes on Patreon. And you get access to the early releases of our Crack-A-Back videos, where you also, if you're a $10 and $25 patron, you get the opportunity to win the second pack that we crack via pack. So that is wonderful too. You can follow us on Twitter at The Resleevables. And now I'm going to let you give a shout out here to our friends Tales of Adventure.
Oh, yeah. Tales of Adventure.
The GOAT.
TOAmagic.com. Make sure you're following TOA Michael on Twitter. You get exclusive deals on Twitter that aren't necessarily posted on the website. If you go to any large Magic event in the United States, it's very likely that Michael and his team will be vending there. And make sure if you're on the website over at toamagic.com to use promo code Resleevables at checkout for 5% off of your order. And all orders inside the United States are shipped with free tracking and shipping.
Boom. Coalesce Apparel and Design, my apparel store. You can use promo code Resleevables to get 5% off your order at checkout. And then Bosch and Roll, Brian Colville's wonderful YouTube channel where he plays Eternal. I believe it's every weekday at youtube.com/Bosch and Roll. Check him out because his channel rules and Brian rules. And he also wins like a ton. And if I had to guess, one player who will make like top 8 of one of the Eternal weekends later this year, it'd probably be him.
Swim another Lotus.
That's right. No big deal.
Put him in my Lotus stack.
That's a thing people have. Let's talk about what's next on the show. Well, I've already alluded to Urza's Destiny. That's coming up next on the Resleevables. And then on the Resleevables Tournament Edition, looks like it's going to be Pro Tour Dallas 1996. That's going to be coming down the pipeline very soon. So we have covered everything that we can with Urza's Legacy. Next up is Urza's Urza's Destiny.
The Croc.
I love this card.
Mm-hmm.
I was tricked by this card so much when I was a kid, Emperor Crocodile.
Yeah, just another Argothian worm. It's like 4 mana and it doesn't work.
It's enormous. How could they ever stop it? Really easily is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of fun cards in this set. I'm very much looking forward to covering this set because like it's the worst of the block, but it still has some really good cards in it. Is it the worst of the block? I say that definitively.
It's some level of apples and oranges.
Okay.
Like, how do you... Grim Monolith versus Treachery is like... So what card is more powerful? Monolith, I would say.
Yeah,
what card is more egregious to print?
Sure.
Treachery. I don't know.
Yawgmoth's Bargain.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's some hitters in here, though.
I don't remember all the cards from this set, but those are just a couple to look forward to. And we'll make fun of the Crocodile a little bit. But
Phyrexian Negator.
Oh, people don't know.
People don't know.
People don't know. That card's gonna come up and people are gonna go, that card's terrible. And it's like, but it wasn't.
It's really good if no one has creatures or spells.
Which is not today's Magic.
Right.
But back then, that thing was turn 1 Dark Ritual, see ya.
In the same way that we talk about this era, where it's like Oko Thief of Crowns would not be remotely playable in these formats.
Yeah.
Because the games are just not about that at all.
Yeah.
Phyrexian Negator has some of that. Where if you're you started playing 2020, you look at this and you're, what on earth?
Yes. Yes.
And
yes.
No, this was the real deal.
What happened? My opponent played turn 1 Negator. Game.
Yeah.
That's a story people would tell.
Turn 1 Negator, turn 1 Ritual Negator, turn 2 Rashawn Port. You're dead.
See ya.
Smell you later.
That's a thing that happened 20 years ago. We'll talk about that and a whole bunch more. But for now, he's Patrick Sullivan. I'm Cedric Phillips. Urza's Legacy has been resleeved. We'll see you guys back here for Urza's Destiny next time. Expansion is released on February 15th, 1990 in paper. That's 24 years ago.
That can't possibly be correct.
Yeah.
You said 1990.
All right, we'll start that over.
Okay.
Good job by you. Start that section all the way over.
Got it.
Yep, because it's 1999.
Look at the big brain on calendar over here.
That's right. Good outtake. Fat fingered that one. Thank you. All right, here we go. Start this section entirely over.
Do you know King Crab? I mean, it's like lower power, more of a limited thing, but it's so fucked up.
Okay, come on.
That card is really fucked up.
Yeah, the game's just over. You don't get to draw another card.
And it's Visara plus no draw step.
It's like, okay, then I just won't play my creature. Okay, then I guess I just killed it.
One way or another, you're not getting a draw step.
What the fuck?
It's kind of a choose your own
your
adventure.
answer has to be King Crab.
Take one. Send your invoice.
All right. Got him.
Got his ass.
Yeah, I got him real good.
Bye.